How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
Eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital.
That's difficult to answer.
dance inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? Oh, I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final time. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? Travel the world and the seven seas. Everybody's looking for something. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to get used by you. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to be out you.
Won't anybody help us? What are we running for? When there's nowhere we can run to anymore. Can't afford to be innocent. Stand up and face the enemy. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible. And with the power of conviction, there is no sacrifice. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible.
Who the fuck is Carlin? She's just some sweet lady. She's like in a knitting. She does like a knitting stream. She's like a knitting YouTuber. She does knitting.
Can we grow up a little bit and
Alt
not
Girl
be
sent $200.
retarded?
Have you
Please.
seen the work of Karlyn Borysenko? Anti-commie cult leader and is obsessed with looking at what actual far-left communists are talking about and organizing today, infiltrating them. They infiltrated the universities, schools, media. She has the receipts to back it up. Primary source evidence. Infestation is dire and she calls Republicans idiots eating slop. Agree.
Thank you for the big super chat. Yeah, oh, I know Carlin B. She's solid. She's funny. I
The
like
great
her.
noticer sent $200.
Literally.
So
not
it's,
Ian.
it's not because I haven't dangled my junk into the combat zone on purpose to get some camera footage, but that's the big part of what's the
Is
problem.
that what you call reporting?
Go
and live
under, if
streaming?
you're going to do it,
Yeah,
go
seriously.
undercover. Otherwise, you're wearing a hunk of meat in a lion's den. Nick Shirley, I love you. Take care of yourself, man. Karlyn Borysenko went undercover. Do stuff like that. Like if you want to expose this thing, don't pariah, please.
But Ian, here's and I agree with you to an extent.
What's up? What's up? What's up, everyone? Hey, I'm not late. You guys are early. I'm not late. You guys are early. That's really what I mean. Can we just all agree that when I say I'm starting the show at 5 p.m. Eastern time, you got to give it, there's like a 15-minute grace period in there. I'm probably not going to start the show before 5 p.m. Eastern time, but like once the clock hits 5 p.m., there's like a 15-minute grace period until, you know, it's a window. It's a window. It's a spectrum. It's, you know, time is not real. And so listen, I'm giving you a general vicinity of when you should get your asses over to the channel. But I'm just saying that it's just like, we're going to start around this time period, and that's just going to be the way it is. And everyone's going to have to deal with that because, yeah, it's my time. Exactly. See, Malcolm has the right idea. It's my time. It's my time. You guys, it's my world. You guys are just living in it. Yeah, I am always on time. You guys might be early, but I am always on time. I am always on time. Time is a construct. Time is a social construct created by capitalism around the capitalist needs of production, the 8-hour work day, and blah, 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 40-hour work week, yada, yada, yada. They really do believe that, by the way. The left really does believe that time thing. That's real to them. We don't think time is real at all. All intelligent. In fact, Jennifer is going to love this for later. Jennifer is going to love this. If you guys haven't seen it yet, I now have what I'm calling the Time's Not Real sunglasses, because they literally are part of the Timeless collection from Vintage Frames. These things weigh like 2 pounds, by the way. These are part of the Timeless collection, and there's no hands on the clock. There's no hands on the clock of the clock sunglasses. You want to know why? Because it's the timeless collection. Time is not real. Jennifer is going to love these. I don't think Jennifer has seen these yet. We have our show later on tonight at 9 p.m. where we're going to be watching Bashar, talking about alien disclosure, which is going to be awesome. These are fucking sick, though. I got these in a Vintage Frames mystery box. Look at them. They're two-tone. They're silver and gold. That's 24 karat gold. They're so heavy. I love the Vintage Frames mystery boxes on Whatnot because it's like I've gotten maybe 6 or 7 of their mystery boxes. Not a single one of them has disappointed me. And you don't know what you're getting when you buy their mystery box. It's basically like $100 for a pair of sunglasses, but you also get like a super nice case. You get actually 2 super nice cases. It's like, well, for me, because I like this sort of stuff. Like for me, $100 for whatever pair of sunglasses he picks out, and also the beautiful case that it comes in. And then you also get a second case that's also beautiful. It's a good price. You're not going to find like nice sunglasses with these nice cases for that. Anyway, so you pay like $100 and they send you a mystery box of sunglasses, and you have no idea what it is. And the sunglasses are selling in his store for anywhere from like $500 to like $5,000. So you know it's going to be something like good, but you have no idea what it's going to be. I've gotten like 6 or 7 of these mystery boxes. They have never disappointed me. Literally. And I've gotten all sorts of crazy shit. He doesn't know I'm saying this or anything like that. I just really like Vintage Frames. And so I'm saying it, but like, you know, this isn't like any part of any sort of arrangement or anything. I've gotten so many cool pairs of sunglasses that I never would have thought I never would have bought these. Had I seen these, I would have been like, well, those are interesting, but what am I ever really going to do with those? And then they show up at my doorstep in a mystery box. And these are like over $1,000 sunglasses, by the way, if you were to buy them off of his website right now. Like, they just show up in a mystery box, and I'm like, of course. Of course. These are the fucking greatest sunglasses of all time. These are the time is not real sunglasses. Like, why didn't I think of this? So, time is not real. Time is timeless. Mystery box. Massive. You know what? Hans, fun fact, Hans from the chat has a pair of these. Hans has an all gold pair of these. They then sent me a picture on Twitter. They've got the gold ones. And I was like, what are the fucking chances that literally one of my mods, separately from me, got the all gold version of like literally these exact sunglasses. It's like we share a brain. We must share a brain. Hans, the Latinx trans black woman of color. We share a brain, apparently. We share a brain. Let's see. Old sub, W's to old sub, sending in 20 gifted channel memberships before I even started the stream. What a fucking legend. Old sub knew today's episode was going to be so good. He's like, Carlin, I'm just going to get this out of the way right now. See, I love this attitude. Guys, I really think that when we're doing a class day, and when we're doing a class day, and what I mean by a class day is that I'm actually teaching something of importance. When we do streams like Nitwits or we do like happy hour on Friday, I don't really ask you guys for super chats or channel memberships because I'm kind of like, this is just like a fun hangout time. If people want to send in super chats and they want to send in channel memberships, that's totally fine. And of course, I'll accept them and be very grateful and appreciative. But like, I don't really ask for them when we're doing like more fun streams because I'm like, we're just hanging out here. Okay. Like we're hanging out. But when I'm teaching a class, which is to say, I am taking you inside a socialist meeting or call or something, and we are spending hours meticulously breaking down the ideology, and I'm answering all your questions, and I'm contributing something that I think is valuable for the internet to have. When we are doing a class stream, I do set a channel membership goal of 100 channel memberships in order to fund the work I'm doing because I am 100% independently funded by people like you. I hope that the people that show up to my class streams value my content enough to fund it in some way. Now, if you don't want to send in channel memberships, if you don't want to send in super chats, you can subscribe to my Substack, which is Carlin, Karlyn.substack.com. You can send me in monthly or annual support on there. I have a locals. I have a Patreon. I don't really use the Patreon that much, but like I do actually have one, and there are actually a couple supporters over there. And so like whatever platform works best for you is totally fine. You can buy merch. You can buy books. All my links are in the description below, so you can find all that stuff. And so of course I appreciate all of them, but in order to keep us on track, it really has been helpful for me anytime I'm doing something that, again, it's like, I'm trying to create valuable content for posterity here. I am trying to create an online university that teaches something that no other university will ever, ever, ever teach you. And I'm doing it all by myself. All right. I don't have outside funding. I don't take any political money. I don't work for any of these grifter fucking groups that take in millions of dollars to sell you a narrative that isn't fucking real. My only job is to work for you guys and to show up and to show you the receipts and to show you directly what's going on. And you will always see with my content the full primary source evidence. We take nothing out of context. We do make clips, but you can see we watch the whole thing on stream. So there is nothing taken out of context. And you can decide for yourself whether you agree with me or not. You can decide for yourself whether or not I'm full of shit. And I'll tell you, I've been doing this for about like pretty much like almost 5 years now. And I really have very few people who watch my content who come away with the conclusion that I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. So let me just ask you guys in the chat. One in the chat, if you watch my content because it's the only place you get access to the truth about what the far left in America is doing. 2 in the chat if that is not your experience. If you go other places and their content is just as good about the far left and you find out stuff from them that you don't find out from me, let me just ask you guys, and you can answer whichever way you want. 1 in the chat if you watch this content because I'm showing you things about the left that like literally no one else is doing on the internet. 2, if you can find this content somewhere else. In fact, you might not even really like me that much. And it's fine to answer 2, by the way, if that's your real answer, but I don't think anyone's going to. Granted, it's kind of a little bit of a self-selected audience because we're asking people who are in my chat right now, but that's a bunch of people, just saying. So I so appreciate when people like Old Sub come in. And let's just give him another round of W's because Old Sub always deserves W's in my book. Fuck you, Mizakan. Fuck. Look at these. Look at these assholes. Reagan, what the fuck? Reagan is now confessing that she cheated on me last year watching a black anarchist. Reagan, you cheated on me with a black person? What the fuck is wrong with you? Reagan, I know you live in the South, Reagan, and you might be confused about this, but Reagan, we are white. You cheated on me with a fucking black person? How dare you? What is wrong with you? What, Reagan, what happened to you? Were you drunk? Was it a momentary lapse of judgment? Anyway, we give her another round of W. We're ignoring. You know what? Reagan is so valuable to me, and Reagan is so valuable to this community that I don't even care that Reagan cheated on me with a black person. We're already going to forgive her. Reagan can do whatever the fuck she wants in the chat. Mizakan also apparently is cheating on me with black people. Mizakan learned about black and yeah, well, okay, you know what? You know what topic I'm not fucking going to cover on this channel? And by the way, Mizakan is actually telling the truth about this. This is a real topic on the far left, okay? Mizakan had to go elsewhere to learn about black analality, the construction of the anus as a racialized space. This is a real concept on the left, guys. And Mizakan, I'm sorry if I did at some point make the decision that I'm not going to teach black anally, I don't even know how to fucking say that. I am not going to teach about the fucking ass as a racialized construct on this channel. That is not going to fucking happen. So that is true. If you guys want to learn about black assholes, you can go learn from this person that Mizakan found on the internet and he cheated on me with. And I'm not going to forget about this, Mizakan. I'm not going to forget about this fucking betrayal. All of my biggest, and best volunteers and most knowledgeable people are betraying me right now. I'm having all sorts of emotions. I'm having all sorts of feelings. Fuck you guys. Anyway, average person will be true to me forever. Average person is like, average person and I actually went on a whole like adventure together in Seattle. We went on to all sorts of socialist places. We saw the giant ass Lenin statue together. Like black average person is never going to leave me. I feel confident in that. I think, well, bot once got blocked by me, but she came back, so that's okay. Hey, Naruto, Candace Owens did an interview with, no shit. Did she really? Candace Owens did an interview with Hunter Biden? Are you shitting me? All right, well, I'm sure that's going to go over well. Hey, thanks so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that, bro. Thank you for that. Kai Noticer member for 4 months. Can we please watch it? The interview with Hunter Biden? Maybe on Friday. I'll think about that, Kai Noticer. Thank you for being a member of the channel for 4 months. So we have Old Sub to celebrate, sending in some channel memberships. And guys, if you want to support the work I'm doing, get your class dues in early. That would make me very, very happy. Ding, 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 said Owen Schroyer talked about me in his show. Yeah, I heard about that. I heard Owen mentioned me. I heard that Owen Schroyer mentioned me, but doesn't know how to pronounce my name. Isn't that the curse of all influencers who come into contact with me? Like, they know of me. They know I'm kind of messing around with some stuff around the left. They may even say my name correctly once or twice, but he doesn't, like, apparently, but they never know how to pronounce my name. Harrison Smith, the first time I talked to Harrison, got my name correct, and then he started mispronouncing it and adding an O into it. And now apparently, but Ding 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 says Owen tried to pronounce my name. Well, I do appreciate the effort, Owen. Thank you. Like, the key to pronouncing my name is you have to just commit to it and say it very quickly. Carlin, like George Carlin, except spell way different. Carlin. And then the last one is Ukrainian. So this is not my fault. This is my husband's fault. Borisenko. You got to commit. You got to say it fast. That's the key. All right. That is the key. But I did hear that Owen said something about the Rumble stuff with StreamYard. I'm going to be so happy if Rumble integrates with StreamYard. It's like one of my two big asks from them. And so if they do that, then I only have one thing to annoy Chris Pavlovsky about, which is I want to be able to communicate privately with people who are members on my Rumble channel, the same way I can do with YouTube in the post tab or whatever. I want to be able to post stuff that is only available to members of my Rumble channel. That's the only other ask I have. I don't think I'm being unreasonable at all. Just do all the things that YouTube can do, Chris. That's all Rumble needs to do. If you want me to push heavily into Rumble and to try to get everyone over to Rumble, then you need to do everything that YouTube does. Because for better or worse, YouTube right now is a streamer is just a better experience for me than Rumble. I'm not saying anything that's offensive to YouTube. I'm covering really mundane topics. I don't engage in hate speech. Well, how they define hate speech. I don't engage in any of like the debate bullshit. I don't allow violence. I don't allow all this chaos going on my channel. I am extremely boring so far as YouTube is concerned. I'm not afraid of them getting rid of me out of nowhere. I've barely ever even gotten any YouTube strikes or content violations or anything like that. I've almost never had problems with them. And so, like, if Chris Pavlovsky wants me and other people like me, and I understand that I'm a small creator in the grand scheme of things, and I understand, oh, she's not relevant or whatever. I'm a cult-like figure. I am a figure that will live in infamy. I'm not meant for mass consumption. This is a cult. This is the show is called The Cult. Okay, what do you guys want? But if he wants people like me to push all into Rumble, he needs to make it do all the things that YouTube already does. At least all the main things that allow me to serve my audience better. And I don't think I'm asking too much, Chris. I don't think I'm asking too much. I don't. But hopefully we will get integration with StreamYard so that I can display the Rumble chats on the screen, just like I can display every other streaming platform. And that would be awesome. Now, Reagan... Oh, Carolyn. Yeah, I am permanently Carolyn for everyone. Thank you so much, Nick, for the super chat. I appreciate you always. Now, Reagan, it's interesting you bring this up because I had already noticed this and I was going to talk about it to intro the stream today. Because isn't this funny? Isn't this funny? For those who weren't here yesterday, don't worry about it. But for those who were here yesterday, you may remember that I told you that someone who has been trying to lead a gang stalking campaign against me literally for years is back. And he's trying to rile up his little gang stalking crew again. And I am not nearly as concerned about this as when he did this 5 years ago. Because things are very different now than when he put me through 2.5 years of fucking hell because he was told no in a way that he didn't want to be told no. And he tried to, and was very successful actually at leading a gang stalking campaign with several other people to get me harassed on the internet every day of my life. And his stated goal was trying to get me to kill myself. We've documented all this on the channel. And he disappeared for a good ass long time after it became abundantly clear that I had won and he had lost, and that I wasn't going anywhere, and that he had destroyed himself in the entire process of doing this, which is what I always told him was going to happen. But, you know, live and learn for him. He can't do anything now. Anyway, he disappeared for a couple years. He has recently reemerged in what I can only assume is a massive narcissistic spiral because he's not getting any attention anymore from anyone. And so 5 years later, he remains inextricably fixated on me and trying to get me to kill myself and oh, look, he's in the chat. Oh, look. Don't ban him yet. Don't ban him yet. I will take care of that when I'm ready. Okay? No one do anything. He is so spun up that I'm pointing out correctly who he is. We're going to let him rant and rave in the chat. And so he can show you how insane this narcissistic fucking meltdown is getting. Because it is obvious to me, who was the most intimately involved person in this entire situation for years, that this is absolutely Kieran. We all know. It is very, very, very clear. The thing is, he's been doing stuff like this to me for years. He's been creating these fake sock accounts for years. And there's so many of these fucking things. I can't even tell you guys. I have never called him out for it before and directly pointed out that all of those fucking sock accounts, they were always him all along. And the thing of it is I think I've pretty much now proven this. We know for an absolute fact that Kieran was the person who super chatted into the show right before this account was made. We know for an absolute fact that this account was connected in the United Kingdom, which is where Kieran lives. And we know for a fact that this person is only interacting with accounts that he interacted with in the past. Just let him rant in the chat. Don't pay attention to him. Don't feed into him. We know that this account is only interacting with people who he worked with to gang stalk me in the past. And I promise you what's going on right now is Kieran is really, really, really pissed off. Hey, thanks for the money. Thanks for the money, Lauren. Thanks for the money, Lauren. Appreciate you, Lauren. Bye, Lauren. Bye, Ban. Bye. This person is only interacting with people who he's gang stalked me with in the past. And it's obvious and clear what's going on because this account was created at the same time that he popped back up on my YouTube channel. And I know this is a little abstract for people, but when he sent in those super chats on my YouTube channel, they were things that directly connect with things he told me privately when we were talking 5 years ago, and kind of just like weird ways that I explain in a video that I've done about this topic. You can go watch the previous video about the narcissist trying to get me to kill myself. I posted maybe a couple weeks ago or something. No. Well, I'll answer this question later, Dark One. I promise. Okay, we're doing something else right now, but I will answer that question later. So yesterday, I talked about this on the channel. And yesterday, I pointed out, see, he's still, just let him go. Just let him go. Let him rant in the chat. I'm marking all the chats for later. Yesterday, I showed you a picture I have of his passport photo. Now, don't get it twisted. I have a full picture of the entire fucking passport. I don't just have the passport photo. I have a full picture of his entire fucking passport, okay? But the reason I showed the photo is that he hates that fucking picture. And I know he hates that picture because the reason I have that picture is he sent me that picture back 5 years ago when we were talking, when we were supposedly friends, when he was trying to reel me into his little narcissistic bullshit sphere. And he was successful at it for a while, actually. You gotta give credit where credit is due, right? He was actually successful in convincing me of things that were not true. So he sent me the photo because we talked about all sorts of like random shit when we were talking. Like it was just like banter back and forth like all day. And so we talked about all sorts of random shit. And one of the things we talked about was how much he hated his photos and blah, 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 because his nose is crooked in it, blah, 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 whatever the fuck. That's the reason I have the photo. I'm going to tell you why you're seeing him skis in the chat right now. And I'm going to tell you why we're going to look at him skeezing on the timeline. He is pissed off that I showed that photo on the stream. Because remember, Kieran is a narcissist, like a real narcissist, like for fucking real narcissist. And I didn't come to that conclusion lightly. I had to spend a lot of time reverse engineering every single thing that happened between Kieran and I to come to the conclusion that, oh shit, he actually is. Like, it was a wild experience when I had that revelation. Lauren D. Laguna is also having a psycho break in my chat right now, which is why you're seeing these super chats. The only reason I'm even interrupting the show to acknowledge Lauren D. La Psycho is that she's sending me a super chat. And that's part of the deal. You send a super chat, you get displayed on the screen, and then we block her. You guys see the shit I have to put up with from retards on the internet? So Kieran is now having a full-on narcissistic psycho spiral. I don't know, whatever the fuck. He's and you know what? It's really a shame that HG Tudor didn't wake up and realize that I was actually the person he should have sided with in the whole feud between me and them, because HG Tudor ended up taking Carrie Smith's side. HG Tudor, of course, is the king narcissist of the internet. I would sincerely love to have gotten his opinion on all of this. I would have even paid him privately to talk about this. I really fucking would have, because HG Tudor's content was actually like integral to me figuring out what the problem that I was dealing with was. And again, we're leaving him unblocked in the chat because he's having a narcissistic psychotic spiral right now. And I want everyone to see how this works in real time. But sadly, HG Tudor decided to take Carrie Smith's side, which was a bad decision for him, because that bitch is fucking irrelevant and is just surrounded by a bunch of Zionist grifters. And, you know, I feel like HG Tudor's content is real. I feel like HG Tudor's content has actually really fallen off since that whole thing. And that's just a shame. It's like, what a waste. He had such great content around narcissism. What a fucking waste. But I really had to reverse engineer a lot of what happened with Kieran to be able to come to the conclusion of like what I was actually dealing with. And I was like, oh, this is, and then once I realized, I was like, oh, this is like reliving my childhood with my parents. Oh, this is fucking great. Okay. I get it now. Okay. So let me show you what has happened in Kieran's sock account Twitter feed since yesterday, just to prove that he's totally not obsessed and unhinged and totally fucking psychotic. Now, let me ask you guys this. I'm gonna take this off the screen for a second. Let me ask you guys this. I just want to show the photo. Let me ask you guys this. What is the skin color of this arm? What is the skin color of this arm? Is it white? Is it Mexican or brown, Latinx, whatever the fuck? Is it black? What is the skin color of this arm? One in the chat if it's white, two in the chat if it's black. Well, I'll narrow it down for you guys. I'll narrow it down to two options. One in the chat if that arm is white, two in the chat if that arm is black. One white, two black. Well, I know. It's like, Kieran, I've seen photos of you, you fucking retard. I know what you look like. I know what your arms look like. You're fucking British and Irish. Like, that is a white boy arm, possibly with a slight tan. And there's like no fucking getting around that. There's no fucking getting around that, okay? Well, Kieran started his meltdown after I talked about him yesterday on stream by posting this photo in which he scribbled his screen name onto his arm with the profile in the background and said, my arm with my @name written and logged into my Twitter unless you think Kieran shapeshifted into a light-skinned black person. I think he's definitely spiritually brown. I think we can agree on that. But that is not a light-skinned black person. I'm sorry. There is no fucking universe. This is me with a tan. This is me when my arm is tan. Like, there is no universe that is a fucking black person. Kieran, do you think I'm fucking stupid? Like, I know you're psychotic and you've probably convinced yourself of all sorts of crazy shit. Do you think I am stupid? Then he said, oh, and by the way, contrary to what you said on stream, and by the way, why is he watching all of my streams obsessively? Aren't I supposed to be the one who's stalking him? Why is he sitting here all of a sudden watching all of my streams obsessively? I do talk about your schoolgirl crush on Amalek. I suspect you lied that I don't because your cult audience weren't going to bother checking. Guys, haven't I read this post on stream before? Didn't I read this post the last time? When this guy is trying to make all these, because do you know how I know this is him? Because this is the same story he told the public about me when he was doing his gang stalking defamation campaign. He went around, she's in love with me, she's just so in love with me, she's just so in love with me, she wants an affair with me, and none of that was ever fucking true. And he photoshopped all this bullshit to make it look like I said things I never fucking said. And he did and now he's doing, well, Carlin's not, she's in love with the Amalek, she's in love with Big Tech, she's in love with Owen Schroyer, she's in love with me. Didn't I read this on stream? Am I crazy? Am I sniffing glue? I'm pretty sure I actually did. And bro, you can post about whatever crush you think I have on anyone. I actually don't care. Because everyone now sees through your fucking bullshit, and they have for a very long time. Look at him continuing to rant and rave in the chat. And then he goes on. Let's see. This is from 6 hours ago. This is the real thing, though. This is the real thing I wanted to show you guys. He is now tagging Mizakan and Reagan to tattle on me. He is now trying, because obviously he couldn't rope Big Tech into this. Well, at least not yet. But I don't think Big Tech is going to join him in this little thing. If he did that, that would be very surprising. Is all I'm going to say. It would be very, very surprising and very sad, quite frankly, and very pathetic. And as sad and pathetic as I might think Big Tech is, I don't think he's quite that sad and pathetic. Like there are levels of this. So Kieran has now figured out he can't go down that route. He can't try to rope an Amalek because Amalek would never join up with a faggot like this. He can't get to anyone else that would be trying to gang stalk me. And now he's going to Mizakan and Reagan to try to get them to turn on me. And oh, by the way, he also posted to Gabs. Oh, I got to show you guys this before I forget. But let's read. Actually, let's scroll. Let's go back. Hang on, I got to show you guys this. He posted to Gabs. Where the fuck was it? Look at this. He actually tagged Gabs, and he said, I suggest you distance yourself from Carlin. This is what she thinks about black people. Is he still ranting in the chat? Holy fuck. I'm starring all these posts to save them for later, to screenshot them, to document this little narcissistic meltdown. Whenever she comes across someone in her chat she considers low IQ, she accuses them of being black. Do you, like, Gabrielle Clark is one of my oldest friends in this space. He's trying to get to her too. That's not going to work, by the way. Gabs never could stand him, and Gabs never joined up with him in the first place. And Gabs knows exactly what's going on. But back up here, he's tagging Mizakan and Reagan. LMAO, you'd think Kieran is the only person from the UK who knows and watches Carlin. Well, Kieran, I really do hate to break it to you, you fucking narcissist retard. I don't really know anyone else in the UK that would have any reason to be as obsessed with me as you are. And I certainly don't know of anyone else in the UK who is Black who would create an obvious fake account and then go and only interact with exactly the same people that you were interacting with when you were trying to get me to kill myself, you limp dick faggoty motherfucker. Still going off in the chat. So I have a very hard time believing that some random Black person just decided out of nowhere to go and find the same gang stalkers that lost their gang stalking campaign against me 2 years ago, to go create a fake account to spend all their time posting about me, to obviously and clearly spending all of your fucking time watching every second of my streams just to find a little snippet of information that you can pull to try to start up your little gang stalking campaign again. I find it very hard to believe that no one I know or have ever interacted with would go to such fucking lengths. Maybe other people are stupid enough to believe that. I don't think my audience is particularly stupid, and so I don't think they will. He replied and said, this is again to Mizakan and Reagan, and if you retards didn't kiss Carlin's ass so much, you would see I literally have spoken about her obsession with Amalek. Literally just go through my tweets from a few weeks ago. 1 in the chat if you knew about my obsession with Amalek already. 2 in the chat if you didn't. Okay? Let's just see. Breaking news, Kieran. Breaking news. 1 in the chat if you knew about my obsession with Amalek before Kieran ever showed up trying to be like a fucking whatever the fuck on the internet. 2 in the chat if this was like new fucking information. I literally say it all the fucking time. Everyone was aware. Nick has even been running around telling people Amalek has status on the channel because it kind of does. If I'm being whoever I say has status, like, obviously. So breaking news, Kieran, you didn't, oh, look at how mad he's getting in the chat. Breaking news, Kieran, you didn't actually tell anyone anything they didn't already know. Let's see. Still going. Oh, no, that's it. Is that it? Oh, he also says, by the way, I'm not the person who chatted in. I was referring to my Twitter account showing as from the UK. Yes, you are, Kieran. Yeah, you are. And we all know it. Now, let's go and take a look at just some of the chats that Kieran has sent in since I started this stream. And I told people not to ban him. LOL, I am not Kieran. Also, you are a lying sack of shit. Literally, one of the first tweets on the account is talking about your obsession with Amalek. Oh, sounds like you're the one that's obsessed with Amalek, bro. I'm really sorry. He's not gonna fuck you. He's not gay. That would never fucking happen. I also talked about it on one of my other accounts. She blocked one of his other accounts. Oh, you have other accounts, Kieran. Oh, wow. You have other accounts. We never knew this information that you made many multiple sock accounts during your ongoing gang stalking bullshit. We also know the names of some of those accounts, by the way, you stupid motherfucker. I made that account in April because you blocked my main account in April. And yeah, sure, Kieran. Sure, just at the same time we got super chats from you. Sure, bro. Sure, I'm sure that's the truth. You blocked me, me. Don't care. Hey, Kieran, do you know how many people I block on like a regular basis? You literally could have just gone into my replies and find me saying to someone, enjoy your block, and then say, I was him. That was really me. Do you think I'm stupid? Dark One, we're going to get to you in a sec. Still going on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Yes, Kieran is the only person from the UK who would do what you're doing. Yes, 100%. One of your biggest sheep in the chat, Tommy Gunn or whatevs from Scotland. Well, Tommy is from Scotland, not from England, you stupid motherfucker. Scotland and England are not the fucking same. Name me any object in any body part and I will write my name on it. No. 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 No, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to see any of your fucking body parts, bro. You may want me to see your body parts. I, in fact, do not want to see any of your body parts. I think even deep down, your brainless twat. What an interesting term. That sounds very English, doesn't it? I think even deep down, your brainless twat followers know I'm not Kieran. They're just too mindless and scared to speak up. 1 in the chat if you believe this is Kieran. 2 in the chat if you think this is not Kieran. Actually, you know what? Let me do a poll. No, we're going to do a poll. We're going to do a poll. We're going to do one better. Because let's let this be anonymous, Kieran. You think my followers are just too scared to speak up? Let's do an anonymous poll, you motherfucker. Is this idiot Kieran the person who wanted me to kill myself? Yes. No. Now everyone can answer anonymously. If my brainless twat followers really think that you are not the person I say you are, then they can say that completely anonymously with no repercussion from me at all. You just said I've never spoken about him. No, honey, I said you were the one obsessed with big tech. You think I'm obsessed with big tech? No. You're the one that's obsessed with big tech to try to get him to fucking harass me. But you said I didn't speak about him at all. See, what you're seeing right now is Kieran is autistic. So you're now seeing Kieran's autism coming out where he doesn't understand colloquialisms. Too bad, so sad, bro. Too bad, so sad. I tagged them because they accused me because you are him. Yup. Oh, still going on and on and on. Hey, Kieran, I think there is a quote from Shakespeare, which you would know about, right? Being that you are the one in England and all that. The man doth protest too much. The man doth protest too much. It's obvious what's happening. It's obvious you're spiraling. I'm sure you've sent in many more chats that I wasn't seeing because I was focusing on the star ones. See, still going. The autistic narcissist is still fucking going. But Kieran, you know what? It doesn't fucking matter. Because 98% of the people who answered that poll believe you are exactly the person I say you are. And I know you are exactly the fucking person I'm saying you are. And no amount of new sock accounts, no amount of screaming and crying in the chat, no amount of tagging people in my community is ever going to change that. And even if you're able to get the 500-pound fat-ass poetry painter on your side, she can't do shit to impact me anymore because you have no relevance. Everyone is ignoring you. Carrie Smith is ignoring you. Mike Harlow is ignoring you. That psycho knitting cunt is even ignoring you. Everyone is ignoring you. Everyone that you had on your team a couple years ago because you were convenient for them to use at that time period because they were pissed off that my channels grew when theirs did not grow because they're lying con artist grifting motherfuckers. They all used you to try to get to me. And when they were finished using you, they discarded you because you were no longer useful to them. You had nothing of value to add. You can try to be me all you want, motherfucker. It will never fucking happen. So they're through with you, and now you have nothing else. And it's finally sunk in, Kieran, that what I told you was going to happen 5 years ago when you started this shit, it's finally sinking in that you destroyed yourself. You and your narcissistic destruction came back to destroy you. And there is not fuck off you can do about it. Old Sub, 20 gifted channel memberships. Thank you, Old Sub. The king and the legend of Old Sub in the chat. Appreciate you very much, my friend. I appreciate you very, very, very much. So with that over, with that little update over, we are just going to block him in the chat. Goodbye, Kieran. Go create another account, you stupid motherfucker. And we are going to move on to content that matters. You guys ready to watch some content that matters? You guys ready to watch some content? You guys ready to do some socialism? Let's do some fucking socialism. Let's do some socialism. Yo, what is that? Brian, thank you so much for the gifted channel membership, Brian. W's to you in the chat, my friend. Really, really appreciate it. We got a W from Average Person in the chat. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for donating to the channel. That's 2 more memberships. We are up to 42% of the way to our goal already. Thank you so much to everyone who has already given channel memberships. We are today watching Verso Books. Verso Books is one of many, many, many socialist book publishers in the United States. They are one of the larger ones. And the reason we follow the socialist book publishers is they do presentations on their YouTube channels and make videos on their YouTube channels that tell us what books are coming out from the socialist book publishers, who's writing those books. It gives us an opportunity to hear from them directly so we can hear what the socialist position is. And if you follow the book publishers, you know the talking points that are going to be spoken about at their events. You know the books that they are going to be reading because, of course, education is at the forefront of leftist organizing and activism. So book clubs are a very big part of like their social community. They do book clubs all the time. And so if you know the latest books coming out from the socialist book publishers, then you know the ideas that are percolating in the socialist ecosystem, because these are the books that they're going to be having the book clubs about. So there are many socialist book publishers that we keep an eye on that are always at the anarchist book fairs and the far left events, handing out their stuff, advertising their books. Authors do speaking tours of these things. All of this stuff is available in the public for anyone who wants to go and look for it. And it's just one of those really great sources of information to be able to hear, like, where is the left, like, right now in real time. So Verso Books is one of those book publishers, and I looked at their channel today, and oh, look at this. Mutual aid in 2026. Minneapolis fights back. And who's that? That's Dean Spade. Dean Spade is a far-left queer Marxist that has been on the left for well over 25 years, since them was in college. And Dean Spade is considered to be the left's expert on mutual aid. Mutual aid is how the far left is funded. They are not funded by George Soros. They are not funded by the CCP. There is one group, a teeny tiny little niche on the left that has one singular CCP connection. And then the right makes it seem like every single person on the left is funded by the same thing. No. You're talking about one small piece of one organization having one person. Okay? The vast majority of the left is funded by mutual aid. Mutual aid is how their organizations are run. Mutual aid is what fuels their activist networks. Mutual aid is not only about cash donations, although it is that. Mutual aid is also about donating food, donating resources, donating energy. It is about creating a collective ecosystem in which the community works together. Everyone throws in money or merchandise or gas masks or food or snacks or entertainment or drugs, literally. They all contribute what they have to the overall collective action. And that is how all of the anti-ICE organizing is funded. Not just the anti-ICE organizing, it's how they're all funded for like everything they do. But the anti-ICE organizing is, of course, the most prominent thing that they're doing right now. And this is a mutual aid discussion explicitly about the anti-ICE organizing in Minneapolis. Let me just grab this super chat real quick, and then I'm going to go back and answer the question from the dark one earlier. Is the mainstream media like Fox News too dumb or lazy to figure out that Soros isn't funding the left, or are they trying to create a narrative? It's a fucking narrative, bro. I mean, you know what? Maybe it is a little bit of both. Maybe it is. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is a little bit of both. Maybe partially they're too stupid to figure it out. Maybe partially they're just selling their audience to a narrative. But you gotta, like, it is a lot easier for Trump to say, we're going to go after Soros and cut off the head of the snake, than it is for him to acknowledge that this is a much more complicated problem and they don't know how to solve it. Because that really is the danger with mutual aid. The Trump administration has no fucking idea how to cut their funding. If it's a mutual aid network, there is no way to cut the funding. That's really the bitch of it. Is like what they do in terms of actual funding is highly effective. It is highly effective, and you cannot cut off the head of the snake. There is no head of the snake. But what does the right wing care about? They care about fundraising and elections, and that's it. So it's a lot easier for a politician to say, we're going to cut the funding of Antifa, da-da-da. And then the right-wing base goes, yay! And then they start parroting that talking point, like, cut the funding. I see this all. You guys should see the amount of comments I get when I post a video on Facebook about the left and about like going undercover with Antifa or something like that. My comments are filled with, who's funding them? Cut the funding. Who's funding them? Cut the funding. And it's like, I've been trying to tell you guys who's funding them for years, and you don't want to listen because they really do want it to be some Soros-like figure that they can just cut the head off the snake and be done with it. It's way more complicated than that. But are they stupid or are they willfully ignorant? Honestly, I'm not sure. Honestly, maybe a little bit of both. Anyway, I want to go back and find the question that Dark One asked me, but I'm having to shift through a lot of old chats here. So give me a second, Dark One. Give me a second, because I think it was a good question. There we go. I'm glad you touched this subject, and I wanted to ask you for a while. Where did the myth of Soros funding the left come from, and why is it so prevalent to right-wing influencers? You know what? Does someone want to AI research this? I can do it, but I don't know the answer to this. I don't fucking know the answer to this. This would be something that, can someone do me a favor and try to put it into an AI somewhere and have it be like a deep research thing? So don't just put it into like general chat GPT. Do the chat GPT deep research. Can we figure out where this idea actually started? Because when was the first time that, what year? Here's the question I have. What year and via what medium did the Soros funding myth start? Who was the first to start perpetuating it? Some people are saying Glenn Beck. Some people are saying USAID. I'm sure that might be part of it. But like, can we actually chat GPT that shit to have chat GPT go do the research for us? Someone's saying QAnon. I don't know about that. But I don't know the answer to this. It's kind of one of those things where, like, when I first started getting into researching queer Marxism, my question was, when did queer become an anti-capitalist political ideology? And so I put that into ChatGPT, and I actually had it research for me. And basically, I found it going back to 1964, essentially. The first reference that ChatGPT found to queer as an anti-capitalist ideology was 1964. So, although I understand that some people believe that Glenn Beck perpetuated this, and I'm sure that that is true, I want to actually ChatGPT that shit or use whatever AI you guys like best. People are saying it was Glenn Beck. It says it became mainstream with Glenn Beck on Fox News, but it's existed since the 90s. We should research this. What an interesting question. How did this myth start? What were people saying back in the 90s? How did it evolve? How did it gain traction? Because, like, man, Glenn Beck, I swear, has done more damage and spread more misinformation about the left than, like, any person. And it's so disappointing. It's so fucking disappointing. But, like, Glenn Beck has truly convinced millions and millions and millions of people of something that is not fucking real. And so that would be interesting. That would be interesting. According to AI, the narrative first appeared in the early to mid 90s, and the earliest documented case was 1992 in Hungary, Soros' home country. All right. Well, certainly something to look into. It looks like people are getting all sorts of answers with AI. We should look into that a little bit more. We're not going to do it today, but I do think that's a really interesting question. Anyway, I want to get into the stream because I've been yapping for way too long. Andrew Wilson debated a leftist yesterday who talked about very deceptively in terms of what I've learned here, and it seems like Andrew accepted dude's term. Wait, what? Andrew Wilson debated a leftist yesterday who talked very deceptively in terms of what... Oh, the leftist was talking deceptively. Oh, so what you're saying is the left was speaking deceptively and Andrew didn't know what the fuck the leftist was saying because Andrew doesn't understand the left? And so Andrew accepted what the leftist said because Andrew Wilson is too fucking stupid to know what the left is saying? Is that what you're telling me, Nathaniel? Yeah, I could have told you that, bro. I could have told you that. But that's funny. That's funny. Andrew Wilson agrees with communists because he doesn't understand what the communist was saying. Hey, old sub, thank you so much for the $50 super chat. The idea that George Soros secretly funds protests, pays agitators, or orchestrates political unrest did not start from a single event, but historians and researchers generally trace the modern version of the myth to the late 2000s or early 2010s. Is it? Well, where did you get that, though? Because Nick is finding it from the 90s. Some people are saying it's from the 90s. This is why, guys, when we use AI, and I very much appreciate you looking into that, old sub. This is why, guys, when we use AI to research things, we have got to use multiple AIs, okay? You have got to fact check the shit out of AI because AI will sometimes give you very, very different answers depending on who's using it, how you have used it before, like which AI it is. So that's why we always have to fact check the AI. I use different AIs to fact check against other AIs when I'm doing research. And it's like, at some point you drill down to, okay, this is actually what happened. Okay. AI makes mistakes all the time. Anyway, let's get into it, guys. We are going to be watching this presentation.
All right.
Did you do a deep research or did you just do a basic search? So if you're using ChatGPT for stuff like that, I would do a deep research and I would have it look, the question I would ask it is, when did right-leaning media first start saying that Soros was funding the left? But I'm not saying premium. I'm saying there is a deep research function in ChatGPT. You need to change the type of query you're doing to deep research so that it actually goes back and it takes more time to actually look at the sources. You have this with premium. So it's not a matter of that. It's you actually have to set it when you're doing the query to do deep research. That's what I'm talking about, because that's going to get you more granular information. See? That's what I'm saying. The basic search only get if you want to dig back into timelines, you've got to use deep research because it goes actually out and gets much more in the weeds on what the information is. And so you will get a lot more information with deep research than you will get with like the basic query. But I do appreciate you looking into that ChatGPT. Well, or that, excuse me, I do appreciate you looking into that old sub sailor with ChatGPT. There we go. And we'll continue to look into that because it's just an interesting question. But we need to get into the stream. Hey, Bill, what's going on? Grok deep research. Yeah, Grok sucks. Grok is the worst fucking AI. Guys, stop fucking using Grok to do research. Grok is the worst AI by far. Grok is not good for research. It's not good for writing. It's not good for anything other than memes, basically. Grok is for memes. I appreciate you, Bill. Thank you for that super chat. Hey, old sub, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. You know I do. Thank you so much for the super chat. Yeah, Grok. Is it true that Grok sucks? Yes. Yes. Yep. All right, guys, this presentation is called Mutual Aid in 2026. Minneapolis Fights Back. Dean Spade, Autumn Brown, and R. Jessica Rosenberg. Sounds Jewish. Join Veriso on May 11th to celebrate the new edition of Mutual Aid, discuss how aid efforts have changed between 2019 and 2026, and the repression of Stop Cop City activists and transitioning between acute and ongoing crisis. Let's get this party started.
I think we are all set. We're all set on the YouTube side of things.
Excellent. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Jessica. I am here on Dakota and Anishinaabe land.
Land blessing!
Very close to the Bedote, the convergence of two rivers, the place of Dakota creation in what is known as South Minneapolis these days. And I'm so grateful and honored to be here celebrating the second edition of Mutual Aid by our friend Dean Spade, which is just such a gift to our movements, which is what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to thank Tim from Verso. If you are here in the Zoom room with us and having any tech questions, you can message Tim from Verso,
You have that
who
book?
will be supporting on tech.
It's a classic.
We're going to talk together for about an hour. I'm going to talk with Autumn and Dean for about an hour. And then we're going to take questions. So if you're here in the Zoom room, you can put questions in the chat. The three of us will not be...
I want to say, I know they have captions on the screen, but they're so fucking small. And I do actually have people in the chat who need the captions. So I turned the YouTube captions on over the captions on the screen. I know that's a little weird, but I want to make sure that people who actually need the YouTube captions can actually read them because they're small.
Looking at the chat while we're talking, but Tim will be gathering questions. And if you're over on the YouTube live stream, there's also a chat there and you can put questions in that chat and Tim will be gathering questions from there and bringing them back. What else do I want to say? So we're celebrating this book and we are reflecting on what's been a really intense time in Minneapolis and Minnesota. And to gather together.
I am really confused. The truth is, I don't know. Was this person born a man or a woman? I don't know. I think it's a woman with a beard. I'm like 70% sure it's a woman with a beard. But like, one, this person was born a woman. Two, this person was born a man. Let me see what you guys have to say. Yeah, one if you think this person was born a woman. Two, if you think this person was born a man.
In this occasion and in this moment, we also, of course, want to be directing our attention and our resources to the ongoing work here and really around the world of communities impacted by fascism and authoritarianism and the crush that we're living in. So we're going to share with you 2 rent funds here in Minneapolis, one in Phillips, one of the neighborhoods most targeted by ICE this winter, and one on the north side, another community also very targeted by state violence and by ICE this winter and all year round.
Deets in with the super chat. Thank you so much, Deets. Asked Gemini about Erica Kirk's personal net worth, and we started at 2 million. Then we went back and forth, and it kept increasing until we arrived at $80 million. Holy shit. Grok said Gnostics at South Carolina song was a live band and not AI. Typical. Yeah, you always have to, like, AI is not infallible, guys. AI, you always have to be careful about AI. Thank you, Deet, so much for the super chat. Sex call. Yeah, I was like, was that the Gnostic sex cult song? Oh, that's what that was. Oh, I understand. It's like South Carolina. What the fuck? Gnostic. Grok said the Gnostic sex cult was a live band and not AI. I promise you the Gnostic sex cult song was AI. I promise you. I created it at 3 a.m. one night. It was my first ever AI song. I even wrote the lyrics to it. It's one of my finest works. I promise you it was AI, though.
And would be so grateful if, in honor, if you have some extra dollars. Many people don't these days, but if you do and you want to celebrate our learning tonight with a donation in support of the rent funds, we'd be so grateful.
Let me see. I wonder if your handsome Harrison would ask Mr. Jones your Soros question. Alex would likely be able to give you an encyclopedic accounting of what. That's an interesting question. No one tell Harrison Smith that he was just called Handsome Harrison. We say that endearingly, Harrison. We say it endearingly. Would Harrison ask Alex Jones when the Soros myth started? I'm going to think about that.
And I'm really grateful to get to introduce Monica with Minnesota Families for Palestine.
Check out what you found. Where'd you put it?
The crisis is also still happening.
No, no. Are you shitting me? R. Jessica Rosenberg. The R in R. Jessica Rosenberg stands for rabbi. Hang on. Hang on. There we go. Perfect freeze frame. I'm going to send this to Amalek. Be like, Amalek, do you want to take a guess at what the R stands for in this? Hang on. I'm putting a pink box around the name so that he can easily identify what the fuck I'm talking about in this screenshot. Okay.
And you want to celebrate our learning tonight with a donation in support of the rent funds, we'd be so grateful. And I'm really grateful to get to introduce Monica with Minnesota Families for Palestine. While the work is happening here, the crisis is also still happening in Palestine. And Monica's going to talk about some mutual aid that's been going on between here and there for many years.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. It's really, really lovely to be in this space with three really cool, incredible organizers from whom I personally have learned so much. I don't have your latest book, Dean, but I have the first one right here. And who's...
Hang on. Reagan update. Their website makes me change my mind to biological man. Oh, shit. Reagan, why are you making me investigate this? See, I agree. I don't know. The voice is so feminine, though. Like, but I do think that looks more like a biological man, if I'm being honest about it. Rabbi Jessica Rosenberg currently resides on Dakota land, but also home to the Ottawa Bing Bang known as South Minneapolis. I don't know what that fucking word is. She was raised on Lenape land in Philadelphia and blah, 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 blah. Ordained as a Reconstructionist Rabbinical College in 2018. I pursued rabbinical school in 2012, in large part fueled by a concern for the ways in which centuries of traumatic experiences and systemic oppression have been internalized in Jewish life and was shapes Jewish self-perception, culture, and politics. Jessica is Rabbi Shmuley in drag, just so real. So real and true, Nick. So real. Oh, man. This article says that she doesn't shave her natural facial hair. Okay. But is it natural because they them was born a man, or is it natural because they them took hormones? I don't understand. I don't get it. Whatever.
Work has shaped my own tremendously. I was just speaking briefly about, the fundraising aspect of this event. In the spirit of mutual aid, I work with a really small disabled-led collective, Minnesota Families for Palestine, to support 4 large families in Gaza. We've been doing this work since 2023 and are close friends with the members of these families. The painstaking work of resisting ICE occupation, especially in the escalation of the last few months, is so deeply intertwined with the broader fight against U.S. imperialism and settler violence. And we know especially that the operations of ICE
U.S. imperialism is a reference to capitalism. Imperialism is the highest form of capitalism, according to Lenin. Imperialism is about stealing large quantities of land. When someone is called a settler, that is a reference to a person who is stealing the land from the indigenous people and privatizing it under capitalism. Does everyone understand that? Imperialism, according to Lenin, is the highest form of capitalism. So imperialism means capitalism. When someone is called a settler, they are a person who has stolen land from the indigenous and privatized it under the oppressive force of capitalism. That's why Israelis are called settlers. That's why they call Europeans in the United States settlers as well. Rosenberg was born in New York City in 1966. She was assigned male. Bot solved the mystery. Assigned male at birth. But she knew from a young age that she was female. Wow, that's crazy. That's wild. I definitely would have leaned towards that person being a woman than a man. That's crazy. Good job, bot.
Domestically share tactics and personnel with the Israeli occupation forces. The horror and terror that we felt and feel seeing our neighbors murdered in cold blood and kidnapped in plain sight is the near daily experience of every Palestinian, especially in Gaza, funded by our taxes and the continuation of U.S. empire. So a commitment to eradicating ICE also means a renewed and ongoing commitment to Palestinian sovereignty and liberation, and reparations in the form of mutual aid is really critical. So I hope people are able to offer any amount possible towards these 4 families. Within the families, one person just had a baby, one is about to.
So I want you guys to see, this is a mutual aid fundraising call where they are going out to the people on the call saying, can you donate of your resources to help these poor illegals in Minneapolis to hide in their homes so they don't get deported? Because they're trying to raise money. This is how the left is actually funded. They do fundraising calls like this saying, we need to do mutual aid for these people so they don't get kidnapped by the evil ICE.
The horror and terror that we felt and feel seeing our neighbors murdered in cold blood and kidnapped in plain sight is the near daily experience of every Palestinian, especially in Gaza, funded by our taxes and the continuation of U.S. empire. So a commitment to eradicating ICE also means a renewed and ongoing commitment to Palestinian sovereignty and liberation, and reparations in the form of mutual aid is really critical. So I hope people are able to offer any amount possible towards these 4 families. Within the families, one person just had a baby, one is about to. There are 14 other small children. Any money we receive, we send weekly to our friends in Gaza, and they pay for rent and egregiously expensive food, hygiene needs, baby supplies, and other essentials. And anything we raise, there's a really high transfer and commission fee in Gaza that reduces anything we raise by a significant amount. So every dollar really, really counts. I'll drop the link in the chat. You can donate at give4gaza.org, with the 4 is the number. And if you're interested in like connecting and helping us organize events and other work, you can do that at that link as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think so much about this moment, especially this transition moment, is about drawing the connections. The whole world and the whole city paid so much attention to what was happening. And I think, and we're going to get into this about this transition from crisis moment into the ongoing crisis of living in this moment. And I'm really just grateful to ground us in the connection there. So, okay, we're gonna start with hearing from Dean.
There is no official verification. They're giving to mutual aid funds. The mutual aid funds then go and distribute the money to whoever they want to. I suppose they could be asking about it, but this is not a nonprofit. This is someone holding out a bucket on a street corner. This is the collection plate at church. How do you know when you donate money to the collection plate at church that it goes to what you intended it for? That's like that is actually like literally the question you're asking. These people are holding out a collection place at church, these people are holding out a collection plate at church. And people are throwing in the money, throwing in the $5, the $10, whatever. They're donating things to the church. They're giving things to the church because they trust that the church is going to use those resources to help the community. It's exactly the same thing. Do you have an accounting from the church when you put money in the collection plate or you donate diapers or food or whatever to the church? Do you ever get an accounting from the church that tells you that the money or the resources went to where you intended it? No. You give it to the church because you trust the church to serve the community. It is exactly the same thing. This is their church. When they give money to these small little mutual aid groups, they are trusting that the mutual aid groups are going to go do something that's going to serve their interests, mostly because they all exist in the same community. These are not unknown groups to them. These are not unknown people to them. They are all friends. They've all been doing activism together for years. And so they know, or really do believe, that when they throw their money into the mutual aid collection plate, the people who are collecting it are going to go do what they say they're going to do with it. ChatGPT informed you that Soros believed that he funded leftist groups in the 90s in Eastern Europe. Someone else said that too, specifically in Hungary. And then David Horowitz started in the US in 2004. Fascinating. Thank you, Great Otis.
A little bit about this book. You know, I read Mutual Aid, the first edition in 2020, and I thought, this is complete. What else could there be? And yet here we are 5 years later, and would love to start us off, Dean, if you want to share some about, we're putting bios in the chat, so you can check those out there if you need to know more about who's in front of the room. What I can say is that Autumn and I are fans of Dean Spade, and that's why we're here. And would love to hear from you, Dean, about what led you
can
to...
we just immediately dispense with the conservative retardation? So they're pro-terrorism. Has anyone said they're pro-terrorism? Has anyone said anything about anything that resembles terrorism? Can we stop making shit up, please? Can we dispense with the bullshit narrative here? Can I have one place on the internet where I don't have to deal with that level of stupidity? Okay. Does a person holding a bucket on a street corner fall under the tax radar? If you see a group of performers on a street corner and they do a little dance and someone does a flip in the air and all this stuff and they're doing something really entertaining, and then some guy comes around with a bucket and asks for donations and you throw in $5 because you were entertained by it, does that amount fall under the tax radar?
Write a second edition of this book, and like what you learned in the process, what's different between the first and second edition, what's here in our second edition.
Thank you so much, Jessica.
If a band is having a show, and you throw in $5 at the door to get in, does that fall under the tax radar? It's like, can you engage in some common sense here? Can we all engage in some? Your big plan is you're gonna go get Antifa for tax fraud on donations that were never recorded or officially on any books anywhere. That's the big fucking plan. You guys are gonna get Antifa for tax fraud. Okay, good luck, bro. Good luck. Good luck with that. Ninja Artist, thank you so much for the super sticker. Appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Autumn, for being willing to be both of you in this conversation with me, and Jessica for having the idea of us having a public conversation as a long.
They think they're going to get them like the mob. Yeah,
such a good idea. And thank you to Tim for all the organizing work. And it was actually Verso's idea to do a second edition. And when I talked to the people at Verso about it, it seemed like it was because they were noticing, especially in the context of the LA fires, that people were really picking up the book again. And that there had been a pattern of people picking it up in these moments when a lot of people are suddenly doing mutual aid who haven't done it before, or coordinating with new people. And to me, it's a dream to get to write a second edition of a book, because it's just like, oh my God, all the things that you wish you'd put in there, that all the questions that got asked at every event that you're like, oh, this should have been in here or whatever. So I won't tell you everything that I added, but some things that stand out to me about like the period in between. Obviously, like the term mutual aid, like mainstreamed in 2020. It wasn't a common term in that way. And when things mainstream, there's just like a lot of different understandings that go on about them. Mainstreaming processes often mean that like dominant forces like pick things up and kind of empty them of their political teeth. I felt like the term mutual aid sometimes traveled in a way that was really defanged. There was a portrayal of mutual aid as something that's just kind of like complementary with what the government corporations will do, or like a stopgap before they come back and fix things for us. And I think many of us are really aware that we're in a period of we're in a permanent crisis. Capitalism is a crisis, white supremacy is a crisis, colonialism is a crisis forever, and people have had to survive
Those were 3 words that all mean the same thing. 3 words that all mean the same thing. Capitalism is a crisis. White supremacy is a crisis. Colonialism is a crisis. Because, of course, white supremacy is a reference to capitalism. It's a reference to systemic racism, the system that upholds racism. When they say racism, they mean the system that upholds racism, which is capitalism. Colonialism is a crisis because it means the theft of indigenous land and the colonization of it under the privatization force of capitalism. Those are 3 words that all mean the same thing. That's why they say them together like that.
Back and fix things for us. And I think many of us are really aware that we're in a period of we're in a permanent crisis. Capitalism is a crisis, white supremacy is a crisis, colonialism is a crisis forever, and people have had to survive.
All of these things are the same crisis forever. Thank you for the super chat. Who even cares if it's terrorism? Opposing the deportation of illegals is evil, whether or not it's achieved through well, Yeah, I'm just gonna go. Can I just make something really clear? Because I think that this could be misconstrued in a way that would be unhelpful to me. I don't think that was your intention. I disavow all terrorism. I disavow all violence. I disavow in terrorism to remove illegals. I don't think we need to engage in terrorism to remove illegals. I think that is a fucking bad idea that should not be done. Disavow all violence. Disavow everything bad, YouTube. I do think illegals should be deported, though, but I don't think they should be terrorized. Like, I do think illegals should be deported. But
any way they can together, and that a lot of those crises are sharpening with ecological crisis worsening and wealth concentration worsening and all the things that we know, war, etc. And so there's not like it's not something we do short term. And many of our communities have already been never doing this short term, but more and more people are finding themselves at junctures where they want to step up into their communities and save each other's lives in ways that are really profound and beautiful and where there's no other choice. And so it's really important to me to not have a narrative that it's like that someone else is going to come fix it later, who's not. And instead to be like, well, what does it mean? And Jessica's just written a beautiful essay about this. I hope you'll put the link in the chat, Jessica, to say, actually, we are moving into building a deep culture of this kind of mutual care and support. So that was one piece, was just looking at the mainstreaming. And one of the ways the mainstreaming happened is that some people think the term mutual aid just means online fundraising. So that was something I wanted to talk about. That's kind of just one of the ways it travels accidentally, because online fundraising is most visible to people who only organize online right now. And we want people to do online fundraising, absolutely. Like, we need to share everything we have, but it's definitely not sufficient, because so much of what we need in our communities, we don't have enough money to go around. Our opponents they control the money, they print it. And so we
don't have enough money to go around. Our opponents have all the money. They print it. Mutual aid is about fundraising in their communities. We keep us safe. They are donating the resources that they're using because they don't have enough money, because they're not getting big Soros checks, guys. That's all wrong. That's not wrong at all. They have to rely on the community to donate the money, and their enemies have all the money. If they were really getting all this secret Soros or CCP money, then why on their private calls with each other? Because remember, this is a private meeting that they're having in their community to do fundraising. This is not meant for people like us. The only reason you're seeing this is because I'm showing it to you. This is meant for their community. Why are they saying to each other, we don't have enough money, guys, and this is the type of stuff we need to do to be able to get the amount of money that we need to do what we want to do? Why would they even be having this conversation if they were getting all of this secret Soros cash?
Just means online fundraising. So that was something I wanted to talk about. That's kind of just one of the ways it travels accidentally, because online fundraising is most visible to people who only organize online right now. And we want people to do online fundraising, absolutely. Like, we need to share everything we have, but it's definitely not sufficient, because so much of what we need in our communities, we don't have enough money to go around. Our opponents they control the money, they print it. And so we need to do so much of what people in our communities need is the stuff we've seen in Minneapolis and that we see everywhere, is like babysitting, caring for elders, rides, fixing cars, carrying groceries, growing food, all the visiting people in the hospital, visiting people in jail, like all the things. So just really moving people into, in the new edition, I write about kind of the thin.
So that was a whole bunch of different examples of mutual aid. It is not just about giving money. It's about giving food. It's about giving rides. It's about doing things for people. The community coming together to provide what people need outside of the capitalist infrastructure. That is what we are talking about here. And that is a reality that the Trump administration and the right wing have no idea how to grapple with. And this is why they lie to you about where the funding is coming from. Because if it's a matter of an evil head of the snake like Soros, that is a much easier problem to solve than a whole bunch of people coming together outside of any official means to throw in money, resources, rides, food, diapers, whatever, babysitting, visiting each other in the hospital. Like that is a much more difficult problem to contend with than we have an evil empire and we just need to kill the king or like whatever it is. That's why they're lying to you about it. That is why the right wing lies about this. They have no idea how to solve this problem. W's in the chat, 6 of bids. Really appreciate that channel membership, bro. Really, really appreciate it. Even if the admin took down one mutual aid network, 10 would pop up in its place. That is exactly right. Exactly right. Yep. Get one thing you saw on a DSA page was a guy repairing cars as mutual aid. Hey, wouldn't it be nice to have a guy who would fix your car for free just because you're friends and probably save you $1,000 or bring you into the shop or whatever? Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't everyone like that? It is a guerrilla war. This is what I've been trying to impress upon people. It sounds like a guerrilla war because it is.
Our relationships that sometimes result when our mutual aid work is only online relationships, then how do we also have thicker relationships where people have in-person connection also as just a fundamental safety need? Something else that I put a lot about in the new edition is about the Stop Cop City indictment. I'm sure many of you know that in August 2023, 61 people were indicted in Georgia as part of the broad work to stop the building of a new jail facility, police training facility in the Atlanta area, and taking
Chris
down a forest.
Says,
And
check this out. Check this out. The mutual aid that I'm involved with has a free store every Sunday so people can get food, medicine, clothes, and anything else they need. This is the type of stuff the left does, guys. This is how they are able to build these small local networks like they have in Minneapolis, where they're all in the same local neighborhood groups because they're actually providing service out to the community. That's actually very real. Listen, you can shit on the left for a lot of reasons. You can shit on the left for having stupid ideas. You can shit on the left for taking trans hormones to destroy themselves. You can shit on the left for advancing ideas that are probably going to lead to the starvation of everyone. You can shit on the left for a lot of fucking reasons, okay? But you know what? The left actually does show up in their communities when people need help. You know, I used to be around all these like conservative groups, obviously. And one of the things that conservatives always tried to impress me with was, we have charities that will give money to women who are having kids so they don't get an abortion. Okay. You know, I can kind of understand where they're going with that, because one of the reasons that women get abortions is they don't think they can afford to have the kid. And maybe if they had a little extra help, or quite frankly, their husband had not left them, or boyfriend or whatever, a one-night stand, whatever happened. Quite frankly, if the man had stuck around, they probably would be in a different position, okay? But they're single moms, and they think they have no other choice, and that's why they're having an abortion. And so if you give them a little extra help, maybe they won't have the abortion. I can kind of understand the logic. But can we compare the outcome? Because conservative groups will give them a one-time payment of a couple $1,000s and some diapers and stuff like that. That's what they actually give them. The conservative charity shows up, is like, oh, here's a couple $1,000s and here's some diapers. Good luck. Have fun raising the kid. And then they make this big deal out of it, like, we're giving women money so they don't have abortions. Well, what does that leave left over? That leaves a single mother who, yeah, maybe has a couple more $1,000s, but I think anyone who's had a kid knows that that's not going to go very far. And those diapers aren't going to go very far either. And then she's left on her own. Well, in her community, probably there are far left collectivist groups that are going to bring her diapers every single week. In her community, probably there are far left groups that are doing mutual aid and will provide her and her kids with free food. In far left groups, there are probably people doing mutual aid that will provide her and her kid with clothes, not a one-time gift, on an ongoing basis, because this is one of the things they build their collectivist organizing around. Which one of those things do you think long-term is going to be more successful? Do you think the one-time payoff of a couple $1,000s is going to be more successful? Or do you think the ongoing help and support, real-world support in the community where you live in with no strings attached other than, you know, be a good little activist in their revolution to overthrow the government? Which of those do you think is going to be more successful? Groups that actually provide for your needs on an ongoing basis, or groups that pay lip service to it as a PR stunt? Which do you think is going to be more successful? What would make them not want to give mutual aid to someone? I had a friend who was a self-proclaimed leftist and no one donated to her. Was she actually involved with the left? Was she a fake leftist? Was she a fake online? Just because someone says they're a leftist does not mean they're actually involved on the left. So if she doesn't have any leftist friends, if she's not involved in organizing, if she's not herself done mutual aid for other people, then chances are no one's going to help her out, because who the fuck is she? They don't talk about Yuri Bezmenov at all. And quite frankly, Yuri Bezmenov is now outdated compared to what's happening on the ground.
And that type of repression is really kind of like the cutting edge of where things are going. Not new, but you know, there's a kind of intense intensification happening under Biden and under Obama, et cetera, and then, you know, really sharpening under Trump in lots of ways that are really visible. And that case really hung on an accusation of charity fraud of a bail fund. And this is a very common pattern. This is actually the same
bail
kind
fund.
of we could
Bail
trace
fund
the
is
same kind of
also
thing around
mutual
the
aid.
recent indictment of the Southern Poverty Law Center. There's a real connection between the way that money is managed and how that is a hook for repression. So I talk about that and about the how if you read the indictment, the charging documents like really examine mutual aid and anarchism as these like horrible threats. And it's wild to watch our opponents try to describe what we're doing and the ways in which they are accurate and inaccurate. And
it's wild to see our opponents try to describe what we're doing and the way they're accurate and inaccurate. Okay, bro, we need to have a fucking conversation. The shit posting from you in the chat is going to stop, and it's going to stop right now. And if it doesn't stop, I'm going to permanently ban you from the chat. This person with the weak mustache game has probably raised more money for far left causes over the past 20 years than Soros has ever given to the real far left. You want to know who's actually raising money for the far left? It's Dean fucking Spade, who has been teaching people how to do this all over the country for decades. This person is probably responsible for more funding of the far left than Soros was ever responsible for. This person is probably responsible for more funding on the far left than the CCP was ever responsible for. You assholes have no idea this person exists, and your response when you find out is, ban me, bitch. Okay. Bye, asshole.
And so I'm talking about what it means for us to actually try to be as threatening as they think we are. Like, may we be fanged. So there's some of that in there. And one other thing that was really important to me to put into the book was,
wait, we got to go back and we got to go back and listen to this again. We cannot overlook this. We cannot overlook the Dean Spade literally saying, Dean Spade, who wrote the book on mutual aid, by the way, for people who are unclear about this, we're about to hear Dean Spade say, our opponents on the right don't know how to describe what we do. And it's hilarious to watch our opponents on the right try to describe what we do and what they get wrong and what they get right. Listen to this.
A real connection between the way that money is managed and how that is a hook for repression. So I talk about that and about the how if you read the indictment, the charging documents like really examine mutual aid and anarchism as these like horrible threats. And it's wild to watch our opponents try to describe what we're doing and the ways in which they are accurate and inaccurate. And so I'm talking about what it means for us to actually try to be as threatening as they think we are. Like, may we be fanged. So there's some of that in there.
May we become as threatening as the right wing thinks we are. Well, they're actually much worse than the right wing thinks they are. It's a significantly bigger problem than the right wing even understands. But it's always so funny that they don't think so, but they are.
And one other thing that was really important to me to put into the book was, in the original edition of Mutual Aid, I never mentioned the word anarchism. The book is 100% inspired by anarchist thought, including lots of kinds of anti-state thought, anti-state, anti-colonial, indigenous North American thought, Black anti-state thought, like these long traditions of different forms of self-help and survival that are anti-state, and I would say, tied in with anarchism. There's lots of different ways you could use these terms, but I never actually said that. And I think that was a mistake, because we live in a time where anarchist and anti-state organizers are heavily targeted by repression.
When they say anti-state, the state is the United States government. That is explicitly what they're referring to. They're not referring to a generic state. They're referring to the capitalist state of the United States government.
And where many people who are even
Hey, Rock Monster, I'm really glad to see you on a non-Kino Casino stream. This is the real shit, bro. This is a real shit right here. W's in the chat for Rock Monster, throwing in 5 gifted channel memberships. Really appreciate that, bro. We are now 47% of the way to our channel membership goal for the day.
Don't actually have good information, because there's so much, like hundreds of years of repression of anarchist and anti-state thought, that we needed to build a lot of solidarity practices. So I regretted not talking more explicitly about anarchism and about my particular view that the fantasy that the state, especially the US state, but I would say any state, will ever become the caregiving body that will provide us what we need, when we know that we live in the context of settler colonialism. Anti-Black racism is like foundational to all parts, including the quote unquote caring parts of the US government, or of the county government, or the city government where I live, whatever. So I really put that in.
Anti-Black racism is integral to all parts of the government. The government meaning a capitalist government. The left believes the United States is built on capitalism. The United States began when European settlers, they would call them, came to America and stole the land from the indigenous people. Prior to capitalism stealing the land from the people and privatizing it, the land was under the collective ownership of the indigenous. That meant no one owned the land. They were all caretakers of the land. When the European settlers came to America, they stole the land and kicked the indigenous off of it and privatized it under capitalism. Capitalism means private property ownership. Borders are created when property is privatized. That is what we're talking about. So then they believe, after the European settlers came here and stole all the land, they wrote this Constitution. The Constitution was written to protect property rights. The Constitution was written to protect capitalism. Therefore, ergo, the Constitution is a capitalist document. The United States government was built on top of the Constitution. Therefore, ergo, the United States government is a capitalist government, a capitalist state. That is what we're talking about here. And so when Dean Spade is saying that racism is built into every part of our government, that is because to them, racism was created by capitalism when slaves were brought to the capitalist United States as private property. The slaves were representative of private property. The owners of the slaves were representative by white. They believed the categories of white and Black were created in order to identify the ownership class, the people who own the property, the people who do not work in the sun, and the owned, the property, the oppressed, the worker. That is the racist power dynamic. That is how capitalism created racism. And when they're talking about racism being in every part of the government, they're not talking about skin color. They're talking about systemic racism, or sometimes they call it institutional racism. Systemic racism means the system that upholds racism. And now, because you know that race is all about, to them, the power dynamic between the people who own the property and the people who are owned, you know the system that upholds racism is capitalism. So when Dean Spade, who again has been a queer activist for at least the last 20 years, says the government is infused with white supremacy at all levels, what Dean Spade is actually saying is the government is capitalist at all levels. Does everyone understand this? 1 in the chat if you understand, 2 in the chat if you're confused. If you're confused, please ask a question to let me know what you're confused about. And it's okay to be confused, and it's okay to have questions, especially if you're new, because this is a difficult concept to learn. But let me know if you have questions, and let's just listen again.
Especially the US state, but I would say any state, will ever become the caregiving body that will provide us what we need when we know that we live in the context of settler colonialism. Anti-Black racism is like foundational to all parts, including the quote unquote caring parts of the US government or of the county government or the city government where I live, whatever. So I really like put that in there more, but try to put it in really plain language. This book is for people who've never organized before. You don't have to have already read anything else. That's my hope with it, at least. So those are some of the main things that I added. Yeah. And yeah, I want to move on to talking about Minneapolis a bit more. One thing that I talked about in the new edition that I put it.
Yes. Yeah. Blackness is anti-capitalist. Do you know how I know this? Because when Black people support the capitalist system, they do what they did to Larry Elder, and they call him the black face of white supremacy. When Black people support capitalism, they do what they did to the Black business owners in Minneapolis during the Black Lives Matter riots, when they burned down all the Black-owned businesses. They believe that because Black people are the oppressed victims of systemic racism due to property ownership via slavery, that all Black people should be communists. And so when Black people decide, no, I don't want to be a communist, I actually do want to, work my way up and get property and all that sort of stuff and become financially successful, they call those people white supremacists. In a speech that Cheryl Harris gave at UCLA Law School in 2014, you can find it on the channel. You can also just find the speech directly on YouTube if you don't believe me. Cheryl Harris, who wrote the paper Whiteness is Property, literally said, Black people can be white too. Whiteness is not about skin color. It's intimately tied to the capitalist system. So by all rights and purposes, they believe that Black people should be socialists because they are part of the oppressed proletarian non-property owning class. And when people escape from that class and become property owners, they are now considered to have ascended to whiteness and are part of white supremacy. I know it's confusing to people. I get it, but that's what they believe. Yeah, you're a big Black man. Yeah, it's true. It's true. I know what he looks like. He's telling the truth. He's a Black. He's got a giant ass afro. It's beautiful.
Explicitly put in the new edition is the questions
Amalek,
probably most commonly been asked of me at live events.
Amalek. Jake Shields exposed Adam Green. No, who exposed Amalek as Jewish? Someone said Amalek was Jewish on Twitter earlier. So today, Amalek has been exposed as both Jewish and Black. Dissident right-wing Twitter explodes. They have no idea how to deal with this situation. Yep, confirmed. Amalek, Black. See, I wanted to tell you guys for so long. I have known what Amalex look like for so long, and I wanted to tell you guys, and I had a really hard time, and I even almost DM'd Reagan one night to be like, you won't believe this, but Amalex is actually black, and I can't, I've held it in for so long, and I'm really glad, Amalek, I don't have to hide this secret from people anymore.
Events and virtual events about the first edition of Mutual Aid was the question of scale. People being just like, isn't Mutual Aid just too small? Like, how is this ever going to meet all the needs in our communities? Because yeah, in our communities, there are not enough people doing mutual aid, and we see how
Yo, Hans! We got Hans in for 10 gifted channel memberships. W's in the chat for Hans. Thank you so much, good sir. Hans was upset that we met the channel membership goal yesterday without him, so I can see he has returned triumphantly to help us to reach today's channel membership goal. Appreciate that very much, my friend. So communists don't want to work or earn. It's not quite that simple. Communists do not want money to exist. Communists want to abolish all money. They want to abolish all banks. They want to create a system of society that is built on rationing and bartering and things like that. So it's not that they don't want to work. They know that everyone is going to have jobs to do in the communist utopia. That's part of what mutual aid is, by the way. It's like you're doing your job to build communism. So communists are very well aware that everyone would have it wouldn't be a job like a capitalist job, but everyone would have ways that they would be working to support the community in the communist utopia, but they wouldn't get paid for it like with money that allows some people to earn more wealth than others, because they all have access to all the food, they all have access to housing, they all have all the free stuff. So it's not really the same thing. They don't believe that some people should have more wealth than other people, is essentially it. It's not that they don't want to work, it's not that they won't work, because if they don't work, they don't eat, and that would be bad probably. So it's a little bit different than that. Yes, their society would essentially be built on this idea of mutual aid. Exactly.
Need there as how many people are living in crisis of all kinds. And so people ask this question a lot, and implied in the question is usually the idea that only the scale of government or the scale of some kind of like nonprofit that tracks kind of the same method as the government, that has an office in DC and state offices and then city offices, like kind of centralized authority, like the idea that that's how care network should work. And in the book, I make my argument that like all the evidence shows us that crisis is best dealt with on the very local level, and that I'm arguing for a decentralized, prolific form of care where we live in cities and towns and counties where there's tons and tons of.
You want to see something wild? Can I find it? Reagan, can you help me find the clip of Dean Spade from that documentary? I might be able to find it quick, but maybe not. I know Reagan will know what I'm talking about, though. You want to see something wild? Come on. I'm willing myself to find this clip quickly. I can't do it. Reagan, you can help me find it? So Dean Spade, market this on Venmo. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Maybe I have it in my Twitter. Market this. I posted a clip of it. Yeah, Reagan, I can't find it. I can't find it by that description. Do you know? So essentially, if we can find it, we actually have a clip of Dean Spade from like 25 years ago. So we actually know what Dean Spade looked like before them started doing hormones, back when Reagan will get it. It's wild to see it now. Thank you, Reagan. I appreciate it. You know what I'm looking for.
Meet the local conditions. And I'm making the argument that many people have made that we need to be a hydra, not a dragon, like a many-headed beast that cannot easily be taken down from a central place. That's one of the lessons of the 60s and 70s. Resistance is to not make hierarchical organizations where it's easy to take out or infiltrate from the top. Anyway.
Reagan found it. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yeah, that's right. I uploaded it to the Decode the Left YouTube channel so we would have it for posterity. That's right. Let's see if I can find Dean Spade real quick. This is Dean Spade. You guys can't see this yet. There we go. This is Dean Spade from 1990. This is a wild documentary, by the way. If people want to watch this documentary, this is a documentary about queer activism in like, it was filmed in the late 90s. We've watched it a couple times. It's fucking insane. But like, we were watching this and we found like fucking Dean Spade was in this documentary when they then were in college. Listen to this.
Some real, deep level actually feels or believes towards us. I mean, I think that's exactly it. It's that everyone's clamoring so hard for visibility and clamoring so hard for any gay image, that the fact that these programs do all the same.
Anyway, that's Dean Spade in 1999. This is Dean Spade, all grown up, a professor at the Seattle University School of Law, the foremost expert on mutual aid in the country, tours around to colleges and universities, speaking at law schools all over the country, does presentations like this, raising money for the far left, has probably raised more money for the far left than like any single person in the country today. You're welcome.
So that's an argument I make. And I think the recent organizing in Minneapolis is the largest version of this, the most participants I've ever seen in my lifetime. I think it's the most prolific version of this. So I wondered if you all would talk about like what it looked like to work at this scale, this kind of bottom up, but large scale with so many new people participating and with so much.
Yeah, I mean,
so much.
They're incredibly successful doing what they've been doing, and they've been doing it this way for decades. So like any intelligent person is going to see that this is the only successful way to organize. That just makes sense. I've been trying to tell you assholes this for like years. Not you, Amalek, but you know what I'm saying. Like
activity around care and fighting back happening day to day in Minneapolis over these months.
You're pointing at me. You want me to jump in? Yeah. Thank you for this question, Dean.
Listen. One of us is a Libra and is beautiful at reaching out and organizing the retards and getting the retards to agree with him. And one of us is an Aries woman that frightens people, okay? So when it comes to like, how can we convince the right to do this? That's your job. That's white man's problems. That's Libra problems. I can't convince the fucking right wing to do this. They're all fucking afraid of me. You are the Libra. You are the balanced one that can talk to people and to organize them and to get them to listen to you and get them to do what you want them to do. This is your problem to solve, white boy. I am merely a woman. I shouldn't be in charge of saving us from these things.
Thank you, everyone who's in the house with us today. Yeah, great question. And I'm really thinking about this question inside the frame that you've set, Dean, about how anarchism challenges the fantasy of the state as caregiver, and how I think both the crisis of 2020 and the crisis that we just lived through, 2025 into 2026, part of what provoked both of those crises, part of what provoked it, like in 2020, it's like the inability for the government to respond with care because of the nature of the state. And in 2025, we have the government actively engaging in predation against communities, right? The government as predator that the community is having to figure out a network of care within. And I think both of those events exposed scale, like the potential for scalability of mutual aid, but in different ways. So I had flagged this both for you and for Jessica right before the event, that one of the things that I've been thinking about in the lead up to this event, I've been thinking about, well, right, what is the difference between what unfolded in 2020 and what's unfolding now? And I was thinking about how in 2020, our mutual aid network, like the thing that we were weaving, was about reducing risk, right? everything was about trying to keep us all as protected and kind of safe from one another as possible, right? So connecting, keeping people connected to each other, but in a way that reduced the amount of contact we all had. And this phase of mutual aid expansion that we're in has been about shared risk. So it's like reduced risk versus sharing risk is one of the distinctions I'm holding, that so much of what I felt like we were up to in the last 6 months was figuring out how are we recognize that the conditions are fundamentally violent, that the way that the government is acting on and against community is about trying to terrorize specific groups and also terrorize other groups into not doing anything, right? And so our job is to put our bodies on site so that we're kind of dispersing the terror across as many people as possible, right? And weaving these networks of care. And I wouldn't have been able to even explain it myself in the moment, but I remember that I kept saying to people when people were asking, when we were in the middle of it, and Jessica, I feel like you probably said the same thing. When we were in the middle of it and people outside of Minneapolis were asking, well, how are you guys doing this? And how are you doing it without, anyone in charge? And I remember that the thing that felt really clear to me was that it was only because no one was in charge that we were able to do it at the level we were able to do it. So I think there's something that I want to uplift inside of this like sharing and dispersing risk is the context that we're working in. There is a connection that I feel like we have made here around scale. Like decentralization makes a type of scale possible that centralization does not make possible. And I'm kind of agnostic on like whether we need leaders at this time or not. I think there are parts of our movement where we absolutely need more leadership, right? There are places where we need more people to be willing to step into courageous leadership. But that I think is different. Like leadership is different than centralization. Leadership is different. There's a centralization creates a kind of fragility, I think, in our movements. And that's not the same as leadership. So I just want to tease those things apart and just name that. And we can get, as we go further in the conversation, I'm sure we'll get more into the mechanics of how were things so decentralized? Like what was it that we were coordinating in such a decentralized way? But I think I just want to really uplift that it is the fact that we were organized block by block, school by school, church, synagogue, mosque by church, synagogue, mosque, that the hyper-localization of it is what made it possible for the entire city to be engaged at the level that made sense. Different neighborhoods had different levels of risk, obviously. Jessica and I both live in a part of Minneapolis that was like one of the highest ICE enforcement zones in the city for a period of time. And so the needs of the needs of South Minneapolis were different than the needs of the Lynn Lake neighborhood, right? But the decentralization made it possible for.
This is so true. What's really fucking sad is that these people are so much smarter than this space is, despite also being retarded. Yeah. We're losing to these people. We're losing to these people badly. These people are probably going to win. They're probably going to show up and shoot me or put me in a gulag or something like that. We're going to lose to these people, and it's going to be awful and pathetic.
Or the pockets of the city where things were really hot.
Whatever.
To have a level of care and attention, and also a level of confidentiality. Decentralization made confidentiality possible also in ways that
confidentiality,
the threats were really different in 2020. I don't think that we didn't have quite the same need for confidentiality and anonymity in 2020 that we have now. So I'll pause there and pass it to you, Jessica, for
Yeah, thank you for that. Well, I think leadership is different than centralization.
Amalek,
Is such
the
a great
rabbi.
point to make. Like, it was really, I think, like, leaderful movement, a somewhat cheesy phrase, but that was so true here. And I think, Dean, your image of the many-headed hydra feels really true, and was something that was like a lot of people were noticing. And I think, yeah, just to say, like, no organization could have coordinated what was happening here. Like, just fundamentally, not, it would have just bottlenecked to, it just wouldn't have happened. Like, if it had had to go through any person or organization. So just to like remind folks of, you know, as Autumn was saying, like every school was organized, every place of worship was organized. There were, like every block became, you know, both a place where like neighbors were alerting each other when ICE was on the block, and also making sure people had groceries, and also making sure people had rides. And something, and I think this is like, Dean, you pointed this out at some point in conversation, the what, like the overlap, like the redundancy was actually good, you know, like that, you know, that you could, because this one, because the crisis was so extreme, but that like a single family could be supported with their kids getting ride to school, and the rent and the groceries, and the parents getting to work if they could go to work. Like that level of need is only possible when there's.
I love this. I love this. Not exaggerating here, but most of uptown and South Minneapolis consists of residents like this. It's so sad. I used to find Minneapolis was a cool city. I haven't been to Minneapolis since 2017 or 2018, I think. But I used to love going to Minneapolis. I used to have to travel there every so often because I had work there and I had clients there and stuff like that. And so I loved Minneapolis. And it was like such a good walking city and such a good beer city, and has like really great food and all that stuff. And now it's queer, and it's very sad. Duluth too. I befriended so many people with similar views and points, but I was so naive about it all. This channel clarifies so much. I'm, you know, sorry, but also thank you. Appreciate that. W's in the chat for Ninja Artist. Thank you for the gifted channel membership. Really appreciate you guys. We are trying to get up to 100 gifted channel memberships today, because it is a class day. It's an actual learning day. If you appreciate what I'm doing, if I teach you something new, if I teach you something you didn't know before the stream, if I make you laugh, if I make you cry, please feel free to throw in a gifted channel membership to compensate me for my trouble and my emotional labor. I am 100% funded by you guys. I can't do it without you. So I appreciate you helping me meet these goals so I can keep doing stuff like this. Let's keep going.
Overlapping groups and formations that are tracking everyone. So, and just to say, I mean, I do want to name, like, there have been organizations, I think, like the role of Unidos and Monarca and CTOOL and other groups that have been doing immigrant justice work for a long time, and IX, and especially doing in 2024 and 2025 a whole lot of ICE Watch training for the neighborhood, for the whole city. That then meant when ICE came here in such big force that people were enough people felt ready to get into the streets. But then just to say, like, I also think the reason we had the scale that we did was the amount of training that happened just neighbor to neighbor and friend to friend. Like, just the people that I was like, oh, you haven't done ICE Watch yet? Come ride with me, 7 a.m. We're going out, and I'll just, here's how we're doing it. And that kind of just like on the go training, and people being really generous with each other, which I don't know that it felt that way. I mean, I think it was a lot out of crisis and like, we need people, but I do think that there was a very open, like, this is not just for activists or organizers, like this, we need everyone if we're going to have any chance of interrupting the kidnappings, and people being able to find a role that's right for them, just like having so many different roles. And I just never heard anyone, I never heard any like competition or elitism or anything about the different roles. Like, it was just very, this is what we're doing. Like, everyone is finding a role, and it's all needed. And I think, like, yeah, part of what I realized is I think we're all capable of so much more than I think we are every day. I think a lot about, I think like, living in the US and capitalism is so disempowering, and we are de-skilled at a lot of things. Like, I don't know how to grow food. That's atrocious, but like, I don't know how to feed myself. But I am capable of doing like just so like putting my body in places. I am capable of like trying to have a conversation. I don't speak Spanish.
Okay. Jake. This is a retard statement, Jake. This is what we call a conservative bullshit narrative. And do you know how I know you're a conservative bullshitter? Because you think that LGBT is the same as queer when it's not. No, Jake. No. These people have kids. These people have families. They have loved ones. They have jobs. They control the unions, you stupid motherfucker. They have responsibilities. They have a bigger social system than you are. Yeah, all Jakes are retards now. Yeah. No, Jake, if you're going to be in my chat, you got to be smarter than this, bro. We need you to shut the fuck up and listen. If you don't want to do that, get the fuck out.
Biggest regret of my life, but I don't speak Spanish, but I think
Jake.
got in the way for me,
Jake,
for
that's
a lot
gonna be a
of
5-minute
years of
timeout for
thinking
you,
that
bro.
I could do immigration justice work at a certain level, or like support my neighbors in a certain way. And when push comes, all of our phones have translation apps now, and also like pointing is really helpful. Like people make it work. And like so just to say, like I think that's part of the scale is trusting our neighbor, like trusting each other and ourselves to do much more than we thought would have thought we were able to. And I think this is like part of the piece that I wrote that Dean shared. Like, part of what I felt in this time is the way in which culture shift, like the way in which taking care of each other needs to not be an activity, like a movement activity, but actually just needs to be the way that we live. That who we give rides to, who we make sure has enough to eat, who we make sure, like who I would invite to stay at my house if they needed a place to stay, who, like that kind of care. Part of, I think, what also made the scale possible. And just to say, okay, this is like a lot of people stop doing their jobs for a few months, and a lot of people really stretch themselves really hard in a way that is not actually sustainable for like people are still putting lives back together, including people who were trapped in their house, and also people who were showing up in solidarity to very different degrees. And I think part of what, and we'll talk about this, like what needs to happen in the transition is from the big moment of crisis to ongoing crisis, is the kind of normalization of taking care of the people and giving and receiving care from the people that we live close to as just part of everyday life, and not something that we do for like 2 hours on a Tuesday. We show up to pack the groceries for 2 hours on a Tuesday, but also all 7 days of the week, we make a little extra soup and we see on the block who needs it, like that is, I think, part of what made the scale possible, and part of what I really hope we build the muscle to continue.
See, what they're talking about is a completely organic, grassroots system of community support. This is the opposite of what you're hearing from Trump and conservative influencers. They're telling you these people are all paid protesters. They're telling you all of this is funded by Soros and billionaires and all this bullshit. When in fact, what's actually going on is they just have a massive community support network where if people need their rent paid, they go out and ask for donations in the community. People make food in the community, and then they go and they see, does anyone need food today? And because I've got a little extra food, like this is what we're talking about. This is something that no matter how much conservatives pay people to meme the fuck out of things on Twitter or lie about Thomas Massey or whatever the fuck they're funding on any given day, these people actually you will never get right-wingers doing this. You will never get conservatives doing this, because this is about, like, they see it as part of their responsibility to take care of their community. That is a deeply internalized identity. If you think that these people are being paid to make a little extra soup and go around and see which of their neighbors needs extra soup, that is fuck off retarded.
Can I add something to that, Jessica? Just that I think this is where, to go back to the point that you were making earlier, Dean, about just the mainstreaming of mutual aid as a political idea and the defanging of it meant that there were a lot of people who entered into the mutual aid work in the occupation with, unfortunately, with like a sort of charitable giving mindset attached to their activity. Like mutual aid is something, instead of understanding it as a reciprocal exchange, which is what mutual aid is, right? A recognition that, right, we're sharing care work because we're trying to distribute the labor of staying alive across as many people's bodies as possible, knowing that the risk against our bodies is going to continue to migrate as well. That's very different than like a sort of, I show up and I, deliver groceries, or I show up and I feed people. And I watched, so this speaks both to the mainstream of mutual aid as an idea and this thing you were pointing to, Jessica, about there being also just more generosity and room for people's growth. I think because I watched people who were not politicized around mutual aid having to figure out, how do I do this? I'm already doing it, but how do I do it? How do I orient to it? I remember maybe in February having a conversation with a white woman, a mom that I know, who was, she was doing grocery shopping and grocery delivering for a family that she had been connected to through a school. And she was struggling so much with the not getting enough feedback from the family that she was delivering groceries to, right? She wanted to know that what she was delivering was the right thing. She wanted to know if they wanted something else. She wanted, she wanted a lot more communication. And she spoke Spanish. So she thought that that was going to make it possible for them to communicate more with her and tell her exactly what they, and so I had to really coach her. I remember having to kind of sit her down and be like, all right, let me walk you through this of how to actually engage with, put yourself in this person's shoes. Try to imagine how much you would be able to communicate directly about exactly what you want and need under these conditions, right? Or think about think about some of the security risks that this person is navigating in terms of even just communicating with you on the phone,
Doug,
right? It's
W's.
Kind of,
thank you, bro. Appreciate you very much.
In myself, I had more patience and generosity for what she was struggling with than I think I would have even had 5 years prior, because I think under these conditions, because the conditions are so extreme, it's like, we can't afford to be canceling people on the grounds of the limitations of the political analysis that they're bringing to the table. It's like, oh no, I need her to still be able to do what she's doing, right? That family needs her to be able to do what she's doing. And I understand what she's struggling with. So I have a responsibility to help her get politicized around her activity. And I felt I saw so much more of that, willingness to support one another's politicization around what we are doing. Not that there wasn't, there was plenty of shitty behavior. There was plenty of shitty behavior, especially on Signal threads, plenty of that. We were not perfect. We were not perfect, and we aren't perfect. And there were plenty of people who felt driven out because of the political conversation being too intense for them, right? That did happen. But I felt by and large that I saw a lot more Signal threads gone wild. Exactly. I felt like I saw a lot more of the kind of extension, generosity and extension under the extremity of circumstances, recognizing that actually we just need more people. We need more bodies in the work. And we can't afford to be purist about how people are showing up to the table.
Thank you both for all of that. It's making me think of a few things that have come up. A lot. I spend a lot of my time doing workshops that kind of go deeper than the book Mutual Aid with groups around dynamics, like obstacles,
thank you so
conflict stuff.
much.
And
Appreciate you,
one
bro.
thing that I think really tracks with what you're describing, Autumn, is this complexity of that we want mutual aid to be fanged and to be political. We don't want people, we want people to learn more solidarity by joining. We want it to be like, you showed up because you saw this thing on the news or because this thing happened to you once. And then you found out, oh, wow, I actually could have deeper solidarity with people in Palestine or with trans people or with people with disabilities. Like we want people to get political education and deepen through the work. And we also want to welcome people as they are and not like make it be like you have to be a card carrying abolitionist or whatever to come into this work, right? This is really complicated, this on-ramp. So how can we be permeable and loving and generous, which I think people often actually are in crisis, surprisingly generous and surprisingly able to connect.
You know what? Listen, like, it looks like Thomas Massey might lose tonight, and I really hope he doesn't. But I'll tell you what, I will never vote for Republicans again after what they've done to Thomas Massey. And I don't actually give a fuck if Thomas Massey wins or loses. Of course, well, no, I do. I want Thomas Massey to win. I want Thomas Massey to give him a big middle finger. But like, regardless of if he wins or loses, I will never vote for Republicans again until the GOP is burned down. Oh no, Jake's back and he's still being a retard. Bye, Jake. Permanent ban. Go away. Until the GOP is completely burned to the fucking ground and built up again in the image of Nick Fuentes. I will never vote for Republicans again until all of these fucking boomers, these retarded, low IQ fucking boomers, die the fuck off and stop destroying the fucking country and selling us out to Israel. It is absolutely incomprehensible how fucking ridiculous they are being regarding Thomas Massey. It is reprehensible the way that they've treated him. It is reprehensible the way they've treated every single person that supports him. And it has revealed exactly who is actually America first and who exactly is Israel first. And I will never vote for these assholes again. And in addition, I will probably end up voting for Democrats, not because I like Democrats, not because I support Democrats, but because it is the biggest middle finger that I can give the Republican establishment and Donald fucking Trump in any possible way. And so, and even if I don't end up voting for Democrats, I'm just not going to vote at all. But my vote will never, ever, 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 ever again be cast for any fucking Republican unless it is an exception like James Fishback, who I don't have in New Hampshire, or unless it's someone like Thomas Massey. I'm so appalled by the behavior of these people. It's not even fucking funny. They can all fuck right off. And when they all come whining to us in November saying, if you're not voting for us, then you're a leftist and a communist. When they all come whining to us in November, we need to remind them, oh, no. You told us that we were no longer welcome for supporting Thomas Massey. And so no. You don't get our votes now.
Cross difference. And also, hold some politics and be like, hey, we don't use that word because it hurts people. Maybe you don't know, but I still love you and stick around, how do we do that? And then also there's something I've been working on a lot in these workshops around people. There's a really common journey people make of having a lot of disillusionment and disappointment after an initial politicization and involvement. Like people often join and they're like, fuck yeah, but a lot of their expectations might have things in them that come from the charity model. Like, I'm going to get famous for doing this, or I'm going to be I want to be the smartest in the room, or I want to be recognized and seen in certain ways, or I want everyone here. I want to be thankful. And I also want everyone here to already have all the solidarities I need them to have. So then it's really a bummer. You get there and people still have their racism and their transphobia and their ableism. All that stuff happens to you again. That's already happened to you your whole life. And you're like, fuck, these people too. So there's a real arc, I think is a romantic cycle, that goes on of like rosy view and then bummer. I'm super mad at you guys. And maybe I think a lot of people's feelings of like burnout come from this disappointment. So one of the things I've really been working on is like, how can we care for each other in this disappointment? How can we expect it? Like a lot of people just did stuff for the first time in Minneapolis, and a lot of them are probably tired and have to go through what I sort of believe is actually just a maturing process of like, how am I going to now enter the work from a different place in me? Not the place that was looking for, not the things I was trained on in this culture, looking for credit or wanting to always belong or needing others to be perfect or wanting to tell other people what to do or wanting to be told what to do. There's like a lot of like shedding, I think like very like youthful parts of ourselves to be able to like stay in the work, like that I think is like, so I think there's a lot of what you were saying made me think of those journeys. And most people in the US, I think historically during my lifetime, enter organizing briefly, often when they're young, have a difficult conflict or disappointment and leave. That's the life cycle. And that is not tolerable. We need people to stay. We need so much. We need so many of every kind of mutual aid project in every neighborhood and every community. Anyway, what I was going to talk to you guys about the next question was this thing that Jessica raised a little bit, like this, like if we know there's the ongoing mutual aid work in all of our communities by people who are living at the edge of crisis permanently. Like for me, it's like in the abolition movement, we always are doing tons of mutual aid work for people inside and their families. Like that's never, ever, ever, ever quieted. We have to do it all the time. But there's a lot of people who weren't doing any mutual aid work before ICE came to Minneapolis in these new numbers, or before the fires in LA, or before some moment, And it's like your city's in the news cycle and everyone knows that Minneapolis people are sending money and, calling, and some people are driving there and, like, wow. And then the city leaves the news cycle, even though we know that like the violence of the Minneapolis Police Department and ICE and poverty and everything else continue. And people are, haven't been able to work and pay their rent, all this stuff. Like, what do you all see happening?
Well, except they ascribe the problem to capitalism and not to Jews and or N-words.
Now, and like in this period where like there's like a false declaration sometimes that things are better, that I think happens frequently. Like, I mean, if you think about the history of like hurricanes, things like that, where it's like the damage is like never fixed. You know what I mean? Like this is actually what it looks like in the US, fires, et cetera, flood storms. So I'm just curious, like, what are you observing as people, still hold this crisis, but without the same national attention?
Yeah. Well, I'm like, Dean, this is also a question for you, because I feel like you've, in the writing of this book and researching, seen a lot of these moments. But I'll share two or three things. Well, we'll see. I think there's the personal level, like personal and interpersonal level. I just to say, like, it is okay for folks to like need to take some time to like check in with ourselves and the things we put down and the relationships that were strained and the and this is I think I'm really like speaking. I know there's other Minnesota folks in the room who I want to drink a tea or a beer with and talk about how we're doing. Just like I think part of it is really caring for ourselves in this transition. And I'm gonna share in the chat 4 questions that our friend Lex asked me in a room of people in a debrief moment, to think about this last season and ask, is there anyone who did something I really appreciate, who had a really positive impact? Do I want to tell them that? Is there anyone I need to repair with or have a hard conversation with? Is there anything that I still need to process? Do I need support to do that? And what can I do right now to make it more likely that I will do those things? And I found that a really helpful set of questions that I have not even fully gotten. Like when I heard that, I was like, oh, obviously we all need to ask those questions. And I have looked at this sheet of paper like every day for a month and not yet really done it. So just to like be gentle with the time that
The question from Dark One that I think some other people might have as well. Regarding socialists and Democrats, they don't like them because they think Democrats are also capitalist or because of some other motive. They don't like them because they believe Democrats uphold the capitalist establishment, which they do, by the way. Democrats uphold capitalism. Democrats are not attacking capitalism in any way. No, they are not implementing socialist policies. No, they are not attacking private property ownership. No, they're not. That's not real. That is a conservative bullshit narrative. It's not fucking real. So yes, they believe Democrats uphold capitalism. They believe liberals uphold capitalism. They believe progressives uphold capitalism. So all three of those groups, Democrats, liberals, and progressives, they hate anything that upholds capitalism. If they are not upholding capitalism, then then they're probably not on the left shit list. You want to uphold capitalism? Okay. That's fine.
It takes
whatever.
In that. I also think like, so there's folks who I've built some relationship through crisis, vulnerable neighbors who are vulnerable to impacts from ICE, who I'm trying very unsuccessfully to like, I shouldn't say that unsuccessfully. I'm trying, and I think it'll be a long time of trying to like have real relationships with them outside of the crisis moment. And that's both my neighbors who are also doing solidarity, or, you know, and also my neighbors who were vulnerable in the ICE times. And I think actually you said something to me about this in the like peak moment about a myth of mutual aid being that it has to be totally mutual at all times, you know, and that like if I'm giving my neighbor rides to work and they can't give me rides to work, then it's not mutual aid. And you were like, okay, but we live in like imperious capitalist hellhole, like how that where the impacts are really differently dispersed, like how would then nothing would be mutual aid, you know, or whatever. Like that's just really a impossible bar. Part of what makes it mutual aid, I think, like for me, is the stance over the long term about like, these are my neighbors who I want to build relationships with and get to know in other ways and be expansive and open to like what those relationships could become. So that's part of it. I'll also say I had some thank you to my friends who organize with the Sanctuary Supply Depot, who do support for encampment support, houseless encampments here, who talked to me about this a bit today around this transition moment, to just name that actually like ICE, one thing that we're seeing is the systems that were built for ICE Watch are transitioning into like.
Has Amalek ever been to prison? What an interesting question. What an interesting question.
Like Cop Watch and encampment support
he's
and
black.
eviction defense.
Of course he has.
There's mixed feelings
Obviously.
about that. Some people are like, yes, perfect, let's use this system for that. And other people are like, no, this is just for ICE. And that is like an open, I think, like happening live in a signal tap near you if you live in the 612. Like that's happening right now. I don't think there is one right answer to that. I think we're gonna, and something actually I'll just bring from that Dean says in this book is like, it's okay to have to split off into two different groups. Like that's actually, if you run into a strategic difference, start a new group, beautiful. I think I used to think there were like too many new groups, and anyway, that could be a whole different, but like if there is a real strategic difference, you might need to, you know, start a new signal thread. So, but yeah, just to say, something I've heard from folks who've been doing homeless encampment for encampment support for longer is that Cop Watch during encampment eviction and ICE Watch are actually really different.
Oh, great. So we're entirely fucking owned by Israel. That's just fucking great. Israel just bought an election, guys. Israel just bought a fucking election. In the open. With all of us watching. Not even fucking trying to hide what they're doing because they know there's not fuck off we can do about it. And the Republican Party and the MAGA-tards supported every single second of it. Thomas Massie needs to run for president. I really, really hope Thomas Massie does run for president. I hope Thomas Massie announces in his concession speech he's running for president and he just starts right the fuck now. I think that'd be fucking awesome. We'll see if that actually happens, but that is, yeah. Yeah, what if we instituted astrological fascism when your role and rank is determined at birth? Well, that would be great for me because Aries is the #1 sign of the zodiac. So if we instituted, I think it's actually a great idea. The world should be run by Aries, like me. And you would be a little far down there, Amalek, but you because Libra is like, you know, what are you, like the 6 or 7 sign of the zodiac or something like that? But that's okay. I will be a benevolent dictator when I institute astrological fascism. And it's just like, it's a good thing I like you. So like, you know, hopefully I still like you when I'm the fascist dictator of the world via astrology. I mean, I'm going to be fine either way, but Yep, Pisces would be last. Pisces should always be last though. Pisces should have absolutely no decision-making capability whatsoever. Pisces should be barred from all discussions involving people to be, I don't know, rational or consistent or logical or not a fucking pain in the ass to have in someone's life. Aries #1, Pisces #12, suck it Pisces. But that's their place. That is their role. The universe has dictated as such.
Like the cops act differently around our houseless neighbors than ICE was acting around trying to kidnap people, and the risks are different. And it's actually important to like not
Taurus is too.
Jump in and assume that because you've been doing the one thing for the last 3 months that you know how to do this other thing that is totally related, you know, like the state trying to kidnap people and push people out, you know, and squeeze people, very related. But there are people who
guys, hang on. Okay. Here is how you know what number your astrological sign is, because apparently this has now become a thing. Okay. So here's how you know what number. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. Aries is 1. Taurus is 2. Gemini is 3. Cancer is 4. Leo is 5. Virgo is 6. Libra 7. Scorpio 8. Sagittarius 9. Capricorn 10. Aquarius 11. Pisces 12. That is the hierarchy of astrological fascism right there. And the most important thing, of course, is Aries is #1.
Been doing some of that work, or basically anything we want to do. There's people who've been doing it.
No, this is not personal or subjective. That's the way it is. Aries #1 sign of zodiac.
I'm really looking forward to the like.
This is why every time you see the horoscope in the newspaper, Aries is always the horoscope in the newspaper does not start with January. The horoscope in the newspaper starts with Aries, and that is why the horoscope in the newspaper always starts with Aries, because that is actually the order of the signs. Aries #1, Pisces #12.
Like encampment support and eviction defense, like getting skilled up and trained up and having more of us using some of the ways that ICE Watch kind of like went through the, you know, veins of the city in this way and really spread. And that way of like, kind of like, I'm going to bring my neighbor with me. I'm going to go to a training and then actually train
Nick
my
is
block,
a Leo.
which
He's
I
a
think
Leo.
is part of what happened, like how we can do that, use those same skills of spreading skills with new skills that we need to get, or, you know, with other scenarios around, specifically eviction defense, cop watch, encampment support, and I'm sure other things as well. But so that's some of the transition moment stuff that I'm seeing.
I'll just add, I think I think there's a lot of grief happening right now, like deep. Not I think. Let me think of a more elegant way to say this. Our city is in grief, and the grief.
Why does it start with Aries? Someone asked, why does it start with March? Because it has to do with the equinox. This is not. It's not based on the European calendar. It's based on the equinox.
That is happening is layered, right? There's the So I guess top line, I'll say part of what's happening in this transition between the heat of the occupation, active abductions happening multiple times a day, every day, because we're still, just in the last week, we had 2 abductions happen in our neighborhood. The abductions are still happening. It's just that ICE has changed tactics and slowed they've slowed down considerably, which is part of their strategy. It makes it harder to track what they're doing if they're more spread out, more dispersed, and if they're not doing a lot of abductions in a central neighborhood. So I just want to name that. So, but in this slowing down, spreading out, it's the waves of what we have been through are hitting all of us. And there's the grief of just the devastation of murders and abductions happening on our streets. There's also this other grief that I think many people are processing, which is and I know many of us, I'll just speak really vulnerably to this, that for many of us, when we were in the thick of it, we're feeling so connected to each other. And knowing that this moment is going to change, like whatever this is that we're feeling, it's going to change. We're not going to feel this level of connection. And with that level of connection, with that level of human connection, there is just a deep sense of purpose that comes. I mean, it gives me chills even just feeling it right now, because I can feel the difference between how I felt in January and how I feel now. And there's just like
all right, Amalek, see you later.
I mean, I wouldn't wish an occupation on anybody, but I do want for all of us to be able to feel that depth of connection and purpose. And I think that the grief of not being inside of that is also something that we're all trying to process. I know that in my friendships and on my block, it's just something we're grappling with, that feeling of, there was a togetherness, a closeness that was happening. And it's just changing. And I mean, it's weird. It's like there was a young person that I was driving to and from school. And when that young person's family was like, we're good now. We're going back to normal. We don't need that support anymore. Like it was hard for me to make the transition away from, even though like technically it's another logistical thing on my load, on my plate, but that's not what it felt like. You know what I mean? To me, it felt deeply connected to my purpose to be doing that. And then to not have that to do anymore felt hard. It was hard for me to let go of. And so I've been having to attune a lot to my elders in this work and we're lucky. We have some really incredible activist elders here in Minneapolis, like Ricardo Levins Morales and Susan Raffo, and just like folks who've been in this work for a really long time, who I think do a really good job of reminding us that like there is a breath that happens in the aftermath of a crisis moment, and it's like necessary for our integration.
Do you guys notice how the left kind of takes their time with activism? People ask like how I saw someone ask in the chat earlier, like, can we actually catch up to the left? Can we actually do that? What I want you to understand is the left is not actually in a rush. The left doesn't have urgency in their activism because they highly prioritize rest and downtime and feelings and making sure everyone's on board and all of that. They might have some like dates that they're trying to like milestones that they're trying to hit, but like when we watch leftists talking about the process of how they organize, they're talking about taking their time to make sure everyone's coming along and blah, 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 blah. They're not in any sort of rush. So do I think that if people started smartening up on the conservative right and they started getting their shit together, that this problem could actually be put down rather quickly? Maybe not quickly. We're talking about years here. We're talking about years of organization, but Do I think we could? Yes. Do I think that will happen? No. Why? Because people on the right are stupid and bought off and paid for by Israel.
And that in the integration that we're doing is going to make something else possible when inevitably the next crisis comes for our city. You know, I know for a fact that Minneapolis was capable of doing what we just did because of 2020. And so then we don't know what the next crisis is going to look like, or the next point of the spear. You know what I mean? We don't know what shape it's going to take exactly, but there's something that we will have capacity for as a result of what we just did, and as a result of this like integration time that includes a lot of grieving and releasing and trying to like allow some things to move through us, you know, as we all, you know, on our blocks and in our organizations also pick up the pieces, because like a lot of what Jessica is describing is,
it's not everyone. They will not offer help to fascists. You cannot be a fascist and take advantage of mutual aid. They won't allow that. But if people come to them and go along with all their stuff and don't question them and don't act like fascists, oh yeah, you will have mutual aid, 100%.
It's like also the like picking up the pieces and being like, okay, well, we just learned this new thing. Now we have a new skill, or now we have a listserv of people. What do we do with that? You know, what do we do with this new set of relationships that just formed? And or even on our blocks, it's like, are we friends now? Like, what you know what I mean? There's a relational thing that also happens where, you know, and Dean, I feel like you're doing a lot of interesting public work around this, around like the relationships and boundaries, and like how do you learn appropriate boundaries to.
A fascist means anyone who is not a communist.
Relationships and organizing. We're, you know, it's one thing to learn that when you're a part of an organizing project, but you can go home to your block and the other people that live on your block are not a part of that. It's like a different thing when it's your next door neighbor that you've been like deep in with, right? And then you're having to figure out how are we interacting with each other, you know? So I think that all of those things, like there's the logistics of what do we do with what we just built? And then in the transformation of the signal threads, which continues. And then there's this relational field that's like, we just generated this massive relational field, or we tapped into a relational field that was there and we got to feel it in a different way than we've ever felt it before. And in some ways it still feels like it's right there. In other ways it feels like we can't access it in the same way. And just being with the loss of that, I think, is a big part of what we're doing right now.
That makes so much sense. What you're saying makes me think too about this thing that I think is really hard, where there's so much violence that's so normalized in our society. Like raiding encampments of unhoused people should be as big a crisis for every single one of us as ICE abducting people on our streets, or having the largest imprisoning system in the history of the universe, or that I know, this planet. I'll stick to this planet. It is a daily crisis in our lives, but we're not. So I think that's what's hard. I remember when 2020 popped off, and I had these friends who were very bitter and were like, "Oh, here come the newly offended." Do you remember this? You know, and it's like, first of all, I'm like, you know what? Welcome every fucking person who's joining. Thank you for coming. And then also, how can we build a bridge for people to want to be this active all the time, which is, I think, what Jessica's piece is about in a lot of ways, this piece of writing that Jessica just published. Like, how can we make this be how we live, and also the meaning of our lives? Like that, what is the most meaningful to do? What feels the best is not to disappear myself into entertainment technology, but instead to be in this grief and anger that we're in together. And as you were mentioning, Autumn, a lot of my work now is about these relational skills. You know, like for me, people often said when I published the first Mutual Aid that it was kind of a self-help book. And then I was like, yes, and more on that, and wrote this other book and started this podcast that's about these relationship issues. And one of the predominant things I'm working on right now in my workshops on this and in the podcast and stuff is how resentment lives in our movements as a toxic structure. And I think that comes in a lot of ways. It comes in us being
Hey, yo, bro, Hans can do whatever the fuck he wants. Do not whine and complain about being put in a timeout. That is explicitly against the rules of the chat. And if you do, I will handle the situation a lot more harshly than Hans would. I promise you.
mad that people aren't already there with solidarity, understandably, because it's painful to encounter these barriers to solidarity and to the microaggressions and the macroaggressions and all that stuff ongoingly. We have the frustration that people are not doing as much work as us, or that people came and then they left. That can be really hard. I think a lot of people probably are feeling that right now in Minneapolis. You know, we feel like, why don't more people care about this? And a lot of people in the struggle around.
That's funny. That's funny to you. 1 in the chat if we deport this person for being too stupid to be here. 2 in the chat if they can stay. This person has already broken a rule. This person already got put in a timeout once. This person came back from a timeout and whined. And then when I told this person to cut the shit, they laughed. 1 in the chat to deport. 2 in the chat if they can stay. That's a big deport, buddy. That's a big deport. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. It's you, not us. You are too stupid to be here. Go away. Goodbye, loser.
People in Gaza are just like, why isn't everyone doing what Monica's doing? We all need, right? Like this kind of like exhaustion. And I think I think the thing about resentment is that it is actually not anger or grief. It's instead of anger. We need anger and grief. Anger and grief flowing is actually enlivening and it connects us. Resentment is when I'm kind of, because I'm forced to in a culture like this, stuffing those, and I'm spending all night thinking about what you did wrong in the meeting. And I'm sort of feeling empowered by that, because like feels good to like judge somebody else for not being right on or for not showing up enough. And so I think I'm powerful, but actually I'm poisoned. And this process of actually accepting how hard things are and how the lacks of solidarity, the fact that it's a coercive systems I live in, the fact that it's so overwhelming that every day I learn new things that are unjust that are happening, and how painful it is to come into closer and closer contact, which I should be. If I'm in solidarity, I'm probably coming into closer and closer contact with crisis and human suffering and animal suffering. Like this process of us trying to like.
Thank you for the super chat, Dark One. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for answering my questions. See you next stream. I appreciate the super chat, bro. See you then. Guys, can I just remind you that we are about 2/3 of the way done the stream, and we are almost 2/3 of the way done our channel membership goal. In order to do streams like this, I need to hit my channel membership goals every single day. If you guys appreciate the time we're taking out to watch this content, breaking down this content, answering questions about this content, please help me meet the channel membership goal. Otherwise, I'm going to whine and complain and bitch and cajole until we meet the channel membership goal. So if I've taught you something today that you didn't know before, if I've shown you something you didn't know was going on, if I've answered your questions, please feel free to throw in a channel membership, or 5 or 10 or 20 or 50. As many as you want, really. I would appreciate it. But if we can get like 40 more, that would be great. W's in the chat to Tolkien fan, getting us another channel membership. Guys, please help me hit the goal before the end of the stream without me having to bitch and complain. Please. This is the last time I'm going to ask nicely. The next time I pause the video, I'm going to turn the sound off and not continue. Okay? That's the deal. I'm asking nicely for you guys to pay your class dues. And the next time, I'm going to turn the sound off and not continue the video, okay? I will Catholic guilt trip your asses, and I will not feel bad about it. See, I know. I appreciate you. I can never repay you for everything you've taught me. Hey, bro, it's all good. When you have the ability to donate some channel memberships, make sure you do so. If you can't financially support right now, I totally get it. I'm asking the people who can to help us meet the goal.
Heal resentment so that we don't
it's all good, bro.
become toxic people in our movement groups, which is a lot of what we do.
Listen, channel memberships are our own form of mutual aid. There are some people who cannot afford to fund this. There are other people who can afford to fund this. I am asking for the people who can afford to fund it to make sure these streams and these classes are free for everyone. That is what we're asking. This is what the left is doing. We can do the same thing. Yep. Okay. Yep.
Look at people with a side eye. We, make the meeting really grumpy. We are passive aggressive. We gossip about others. We're unwelcoming because somebody doesn't already know everything we know that we think is, like all this stuff, which is just, I just want to have like, this is normal. Every single person in this room feels resentment. And also we do it with our lovers and our friends and our roommates and our coworkers, but it's just not working for us. And when I do these workshops, the first thing people ask is, yeah, how do I get other people to stop being resentful? And the thing is, you can't get other people to do anything except for by like inviting them generously for the rest of your life. Like all we can do is like be kind and love people. And with our friends, we can maybe have deeper interventions of just like, what kind of boundary do you need there, friend? Or what, like we can ask kind of what might be generating the resentment, or I want to hear about your grief on that, or like I think you're pissed and I think you should be more pissed, or whatever will actually support each other. But we have to mostly just work on our own resentment and then enter the work. Like for me, it was a huge transition to stop doing nonprofit work and do all my organizing work unpaid and get a different kind of job to pay my bills. That allowed me to move away from resentment and into choice. For me, that was the path. For some people, it's about having other kinds of spiritual practice around the day-to-day work. It's what does it take for me to mature into knowing I'm choosing this, even though I'm imperfect, the work is imperfect, all the other people doing the work are imperfect. We don't know if it's going to work. Like all of the pain of all that, and to like, as Autumn's saying, like live in that grief. So that's one big thing.
Hans comes in 20 gifted channel memberships, bro. Seriously? Everyone needs to give Hans a big W in the chat. 20 gifted channel memberships. Thank you so much for your generosity, my friend. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Mike, for that super chat. I will count that as a channel membership for you, my friend. W's to you as well, good sir. Let's see. What does that get us up to? 83. Guys, we need 17 more. 17 more. I know we can do it. Thank you guys for your generosity. I really appreciate all of you.
That I've been like kind of working on around the relationship piece that I'm seeing. And the other one is just the most basic thing that I wish everyone would try out is just like direct feedback. Like most of us just don't tell each other things directly. Like, hey, when you're late, it bothers me. Hey, like I really wish you'd done the tests you said you were going to do, or told me you weren't going to do, whatever it is. Like that kind of stuff, like bottling it up, blowing up at people, or leaving the group, are just like the constant patterns, or telling everyone else, but not them. And then now it's like the person feels like people are talking about them behind their back and they feel paranoid, and like it escalates. Like this kind of like being able to give the feedback and practicing being non-defensive when people give us feedback, like really practicing being like, I know they're giving me this feedback because they want to keep organizing with me, because they value the work, because they think I matter. This is like, these are the skills that I think could really change things for us.
Well, and I just want to tag on to that, Dean, and say, yeah, plus, because I think people don't realize that when you're giving someone feedback, you're giving them an opportunity to build trust with you. You're building trust with them, and you're giving them an opportunity to build trust with you. All it does is, there's multiple pathways. You don't know how it's going to go, but you are creating the possibility of more trust, deeper relationship, deeper intimacy, which just creates more possibility. Whereas if you don't give the feedback, you're just cutting off so much potential if you don't give it.
Yeah, we're all afraid that we're going to lose the connection if we give the feedback, or if we admit a mistake in public. Both of those things are like, I'm going to lose the connection. And actually, because almost none of us have the experience of ever giving feedback and having someone listen to us and try to make it.
We got a super chat from Gerald. Thank you, Gerald. How can socialists be shown that legitimate need for feminine expression may be more fully developed through capitalism? Well, okay, you can't teach socialists anything. You can't teach socialists anything. These people are in a cult. This is not about deprogramming them. This is not about convincing them that they're wrong. This is their worldview. This is like asking, how can I go into a church and teach Christians that the Bible is bullshit? That is what you're effectively asking me. You can't go into a church and teach Christians that the Bible is bullshit because they are willingly buying into a mythological being that was created by Jews, but we'll talk about that another day. They are like, socialists are not going to give up their beliefs any more than Christians are going to give up their beliefs. So I don't know exactly what you're asking here, and I'm not even sure I agree with the premise, but what I can tell you is this is not about convincing socialists of anything. This is about understanding what they believe and hinging into reality. Thank you, user, for becoming a member of the cult. Appreciate it. Welcome to the cult. You're never leaving now. It's totally over.
Change because we live in these like hierarchical societies where, you know, our parents, our bosses, or they don't have to listen to us.
We live in
Because most of us don't
hierarchical
have that. When
societies.
someone does that with you, you're like, oh fuck, I love you forever. Like
Right.
it's so, you feel so accompanied, and there's so much trust, even if they're very different, and even if they're imperfect at, you know, doing the change.
Right.
Jessica, you were going to say something?
I think, okay, I'm two things I circled in the new introduction to your book this weekend that I feel really relevant to this, that there's a new preface, friends, with common obstacles since 2020. And one of them says, blaming each other and ourselves for the conditions. And I just thought this was so spot on about it's just really hard that we can't do this work perfectly given the existing conditions. Like, I just feel like the amount of time our frustrations at each other, I think that's like a good thing to pause and check and be like, am I actually frustrated at this person, or is it just or like, is it impossible for, like, food shouldn't be like, housing shouldn't be a commodity like that, you know, kind of like the root problem. Like, yes, we should all try to show up better, like not to say that lets us off the hook from ever examining our own behavior and you know, giving feedback and trying to grow, you know. And like, what percentage of what I'm upset about right now is like, it's out of control that people don't have their basic needs met. Like, that's not how humans and most life on the planet, you know, should be living most of the time. We have enough food. And I found that. And also this piece about choosing to care and fight in the face of uncertainty, to be like, I think, Dean, your work blends the political and the spiritual in a way that is very moving to me. And just this reminder of, we don't know if we're going to win. We're not winning. Like, you know, in Minneapolis, we have been like, you know, this is one of this, I can't even get the sentence out. It's like, this was a big movement victory in some ways. Multiple people were murdered, you know, and like many people were kidnapped, and many people are not going to see their parents ever again or see their kids ever again. Like, that's and we mounted this incredible resistance, and it was so beautiful and inspiring. And this is what winning looks like. People are still dead and kidnapped and destroyed. And like, I think that we continue, like, part of I think what, you know, also with the work in here about kind of like being on purpose, about like finding actually our life's purpose and our life's meaning, not in winning, looking any one way, but in taking care of each other and continuing to show up for struggle and continuing to try to learn and grow as we do it. Like, that's it. There's no finish line. Like, that's just what we're doing every day. I don't remember what we were talking about when I started on this point or why, but it's like, yeah, it's just something I feel really, and I forget all the time. And then I think part of this is like how to regularly remind ourselves and each other, like, this is my purpose, is just each day to do the best I can for my neighbors and the earth and my community and myself and whatever mystery we tune into. Like, that's what we're doing. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Should we go into the questions? Tim, have you been
Yes,
collecting
go
them?
answer the questions,
And
Dean,
just to
please.
say,
Thank you.
I'm excited to read the chat later. I'm so grateful there's Minneapolis people here, both sharing questions and sharing your experiences.
A reminder to click on those links as we head into Q&A. Please click on those links and donate, if you can, to our Minneapolis rent funds and to our families in Gaza.
Guys, does it sound like they're taking in big Soros checks, or does it sound like they're having little, small, informal community meetings where they're saying, please go donate to our fundraising? Which does it sound like? Does it sound like they're raking in these big billionaire checks from Soros, or does it sound like they're going out to their communities and saying, hey guys, can you go give some money to our GoFundMe, please?
Thank you all again. And yeah, it's a wonderful chat. I know some people were saying that they wanted to go in and make sure they save it. So people, just a quick reminder for people who are asking, this conversation will be available on the Verso YouTube channel if you want to reference it later. And if you need any other materials from it, just feel free to shoot me a message. But with that, yeah, let's go to the Q&A. So we had a message from Brian. Brian wrote, grateful for this space. I'm curious how you think about how the culture was set / distributed, and in particular, whether there were any boundaries, e.g., this is what we do not do. Does it feel fair to say that there were many self-organized groups that were responding to common principles / shared culture in some way? And this is tied to mutual aid practices in Minneapolis.
Tim, would you put that in the chat or chat that to us? Because I can only hold on to so many words at a time right now. Thank you. But if Dean or Autumn, if you want to...
I think you two should address it because it's a Minneapolis-focused question for sure.
Yeah, I'll just respond to what I thought I heard. Oh, here we go in the chat. Culture was set, distributed. That's a great question. I would say, right. So there was a lot of culture setting, what I witnessed and experienced. There was a lot of culture setting in signal threads.
Culture setting
the
in
success
signal?
of signal threads depended entirely on the culture setting. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. So I had one signal thread that I was in that had almost 1,000 people in it. It's still active. And of all the signal threads I'm in, it's the easiest one for me to track because of how intense the culture setting was from the beginning around exactly what this thread is supposed to be used for, how to engage with it, who should be engaged with it, and how to encounter and interact with content that shouldn't be posted there. That in and of itself was a real learning curve for a lot of people because we had different types of threads that were, some threads that were specifically for rapid response, other threads that were for coordination of care, other threads that were specifically for people who are actively out commuting, which is not the same as doing rapid response necessarily. And so different threads needed different cultures, and not everyone was comfortable with the level of kind of sweeping of content that didn't fit. So that's one place where I saw active culture setting happening that was really led by whoever the organizers were that were moderating those threads. I would say that folks who were doing, there was some culture that was getting set through Ice Watch training, right? So whether that training was happening, we had trainings that were often happening at one of my local community centers, Sabathani, which is just down the street from where I live. But there were also a lot of online Ice Watch trainings happening. I attended a really amazing one through States at the Core, which is actually an organization based out of Chicago. And I thought that they did a great job of doing culture setting around how to show up in the streets, not just the logistics of what the Ice Watch activity is, but also.
We've watched States at the Core training multiple times, just so people know. There are multiple spy streams where we've watched those specific trainings that this person is referencing.
Also how to orient to other organizers. And then I'll just
still
say
do them today,
my own
too.
direct experience of being with people on my block, and occasionally doing I didn't do a lot of rapid response work, but occasionally doing rapid response. I noticed that there were a lot of younger organizers who were very calm and masked. And I think that so it was interesting. I think there was someone who in the chat pointed out that there was a lot of tension and difficulty around disability justice practices, and continued to be a lot of tension and difficulty around disability justice practices in all movement communities, I would say. But I personally witnessed a lot of young masked organizers who brought an incredible presence of calm and communication to the work that they were doing in the streets. And I think that combination of like people who showed up with a particular type of presence and were also very clearly oriented to physical safety, I think there was like a way that invited a particular culture, at least in the part of Minneapolis that I live in, and the kinds of interactions I was having with people. And so I know that it didn't feel the same for different people in different neighborhoods. I know that it wasn't the same. I know that there are people who felt excluded. Someone's asking if I can speak more sweeping of content. Okay, someone's explaining it. Literally a broom. But yeah, so I think those are just a few things that I noticed as a part of culture setting. Again, I think that the broader context, as Dean named at the top, is that there has been a mainstreaming of mutual aid as a political idea. So there's some political education that wasn't necessarily having to happen in these spaces at this particular time, because there's a foundation that's been laid over the last decade of anti-violence, anti-police organizing, abolition organizing work that's been happening in the city. And so I think that was a contributor also to some of the way that culture then started to unfold.
Do you guys see how this all works? All of every single time the left does something like a major protest or a major rally or a major mass general strike, the right immediately comes in and they say, what are they even doing here? What did they accomplish? They didn't do anything. This was a total failure. That is always the right-wing response to anything that the left does. Meanwhile, the left is scaffolding all of their activism to build off of previous activism. This is why the left is able to create the momentum that today allows them to get 100,000 people out in Minneapolis on a 20 degree below zero day. It wasn't that they always had that. It's that they spent years in Minneapolis, specifically since the Black Lives Matter riots, building up their activist system through abolish the police, through pro-Palestine protesting. And then once they got into the anti-ICE protesting, they had already built up enough momentum from having been doing this type of activism for years and years and years that it started to spiral and really grow to where they could get all of those people out at a moment's notice. It started to spiral into all these signal groups. There were over 80,000 people in signal groups in Minneapolis. In Minneapolis, they could get they could get people in any part of the city to an ICE kidnapping within 2 minutes of spotting ICE. That didn't happen overnight. That happened because they kept scaffolding effort on top of effort, on top of effort, on top of effort. And all the while, the right is going, they're not accomplishing anything. They don't even know what they want. They're total failures. This is a waste of time. They're all paid protesters. They don't have jobs. And it's like, they're literally talking about how all of this activism from Black Lives Matter through pro-Palestine to all the anti-ICE stuff, that has led them to what they have today.
The only thing I would add is I think there was a lot of actually just if something didn't work for you, you could find a different group. Anyway, Yeah. So and I think that happened with like some ease. Like I just like did hear some people being like that group, meh, and then but they found plenty of other things to do. So I think as far as like culture setting, I do think there were also people coming out of 2020 who brought that wisdom very specifically and was like, okay, I'm gonna set, and I think a little bit like the things that worked, people kind of like voted with their attention and care, and like if people were stayed in the thread doing the thing, then it was working, and like so I think that is part of what happened culture setting wise.
One other thing I'll say about this, and I know we have other questions that we want to get to, but I think it does bear saying that security culture was a major feature of this iteration of organizing, and it was very challenging, very, very challenging, and it presented new and different challenges because there were some people who entered this political moment with like some experience organizing in relationship to having a particular type of security culture. And then there were other people who were like, I downloaded Signal just so I could be here. You know what I mean? So I think that was one of the biggest learning curves, was just like figuring out, how do I engage in the organizing work in a secure way? I'll just say anecdotally, I did what I think was maybe a very terrible thing to somebody, because I've been on Signal for a long time, but I was slow to catch the fact that so many people were changing their usernames. And in one of the threads that I was in, someone was really being, I thought, aggressive in a way that to me looked like infiltration. And so in view of everyone on the thread, I like asked the moderator to check and see whether this person was an infiltrator, not realizing that they had just changed their username and they were like one of the moderators. They were just having a bad day, right? They were just having a bad day. But
that's so fucking funny. That's so fucking funny. Someone was having a bad day and they thought they were an infiltrator. Hey, thanks, Grillis, for the super chat. Mutual aid is how the far left funds their organizations and protests, not big dark money like retarded conservatives suggest. So true, Grillis. So true. Really appreciate that super chat. Guys, we are winding down the stream. We have about 20 minutes left. I would love to be able to hit our channel membership goal before the end of the stream. I need like 3 people to give 5 channel memberships each to get us a good way to that goal. And then an additional 1 on top of that. So if 16 people donated a channel membership right now, which is $5, we would be at our goal. If 3 people donated 5 channel memberships, and then we got an additional 1 on top of that, we would be at our goal. I know it's late in the stream. This is perfectly achievable. Hitting the goals helps me keep this stuff free for everyone. We got Malcolm in with a 5. Thank you so much, Malcolm. I really appreciate that support. We need 11 more, guys. 11 more. There will be a hero that gets us across the finish line. There will be a hero tonight that gets us to that goal. We got Dumb Phone in with 5 W's to Dumb Phone in the chat. Thank you so much, my friend, for the gifted channel membership. Getting closer. We have 90. We need 6 more, guys. Who is going to be the hero that puts us over the top for the night? We need 1 5 and 1 1, or we need 6 1s. It's up to you guys. What do you want to do? We're going to sit here quietly till we meet the goal, and then we will finish the presentation. Because I know there's a hero right now that's setting up their memberships. They're like, Carlin, okay, I'm on board. I really thought the left was funded by George Soros until today, and now I'm hearing them have an actual fundraising call. And I'm starting to realize that that conservatives were full of shit the whole time. Nick in with a channel membership. W's to Nick. Thank you so much. We need 1 more 5er, guys. 1 more 5 gifted channel membership, or 5 1s. Either way. Either way. Who wants to be a hero tonight, guys? Who wants to be the hero of the chat? I know someone's already going to do it. I'm curious to find out who it's going to be. Because I know there are people that want to finish the presentation, and we're not finishing the presentation until we hit the channel membership goal. So, or I could just peace out. I got another stream at 9 p.m., so I could just peace out too and go take a little break. It's entirely up to you guys. I can watch the rest of this on my own. I don't need to be watching it with you guys on the internet and breaking it down. Although I do appreciate everyone very much who's gotten us to like 95% of our goal. We're not going to proceed until we hit the goal. That's just the way it goes. Goals matter. Or maybe I'm getting a 20-minute break. Who knows? We can sit. Are we sitting here and staring at each other? That's what we're doing now? Okay. We got one from Derpy Dan. W's to Dan. Thank you. Guys, we need 4 more. 4 more. Yo, Nick! Nick is the hero! Nick is the hero that we needed. Nick, I didn't have you on the list of heroes that I expected to show up. I so appreciate it, my friend. W's in the chat to Nick. The hero we need for the night. Longtime member of the community. Appreciate it very, very much, bro. Thank you, thank you, thank you for getting us across the finish line. Nick, you hate us? No, you love us, Nick. You love us. Nick is the OG hero. Thank you, Nick. You rock. Thank you, thank you. Okay, let's finish up.
I mean, I felt so embarrassed. That person felt so hurt, you know, and it was just my own learning curve around the security culture, that what I felt like I needed for my own security versus what a lot of other people felt like they needed, you know. So things like that happened. We all learned a lot. A lot of mistakes were made. It was very messy. I include myself in that mess.
I'll add this other question into chat here as I read it, but this is from Hummingbird, who's asking, wondering if our presenters can speak to trying to untangle the bottlenecking happening in the transition between crisis and ongoing crisis that we in Minneapolis find ourselves in now, where there are so many trying to turn things into these more centralized and official methods, these new crops of 501c3s, etc.
See, they're against the nonprofits. They're against the centralized and official methods like the new nonprofits that are popping up. I sped up the playback a little bit for time, just so you guys know.
I'll just say, yeah, this is what one of the things I was just doing this workshop that Beatrice from the Death Panel asked me to do, was to kind of like talk to people in Minneapolis, many of whom are really new to organizing, for whom the like critique of nonprofitization might be new. And a lot of people, Jessica's talking about this and Beatrice was talking about this, you know, so a lot of people are just kind of like, oh, fuck, this is a lot. Like, can we get someone else to do this, or can somebody get paid to do this? And it's really intense to be like, not really. Like, if we make a nonprofit that is supposed to do some of this, it can be defunded at any time. It will do a much smaller amount of it than we're doing now. And it will inevitably leave out the people who need it the most, because that is how the process of funding and philanthropic control works. And my whole long history of the nonprofitization of community projects has been one in which very little of the need is met. And there's a big claiming about how much of it is being met because you have to for your funders. So it puts people in this really bad position. And a small set of people are considered the professionals who are supposed to do this, but way more than they could possibly do. And then everybody is supposed to just not have to do it. And that's just not the times we're living in. And it's one of these things where you just got to feel the grief. It just sucks. Like, it just sucks that we all have to take care of each other. And there's so much pain. And on the other,
it sucks that we all have to take care of each other. Guys, if these people were really getting big Soros checks, don't you think that they would be celebrating that? It sucks that we're in this fucking position. Fuck capitalism. That's what they're saying.
And as I think Jessica's piece shows, and so many people's work, this is the most meaningful, beautiful stuff you could ever fucking do. And you'll meet like all your favorite people doing it, and you'll find like the hottest people to have sex with, and like best people to be roommates with, and like cool people to garden with, and like the best people to play music with, and to like, you know, worship whatever you worship with. Like, all of that, like the best life you could possibly live comes from the way the world comes alive when we are connected to one another instead of isolated. And the dualism of that, and also the people are fucking annoying, and the people who you're living near right now are the ones you're going to go through the apocalypse with. Ouch. And it's not going to be someone cooler who you can meet on an app. It's these people. These are the ones. These annoying people are your lifeline, and you are theirs. And that, I think that this is a lot of the transition and the maturation between the moment of being newsworthy and the moment of just still living in a city where ICE is abducting people and all the other crises are happening too.
Well, and I was slightly distracted trying to find this video, but maybe Dean will, your most popular video, should movement work be paid? Which is a talk Dean did. And I think that, and I'm making a joke because actually I think he got a lot of shit for it. And just to say, he is asking it as a real question. I think actually the title should be like, when should movement work be paid and what happens when it is like actually more what's happening in there. And really asking like, okay, like nonprofit status as a tool, anything can be a weapon or a tool, and like, people getting paid for their work, like it's one tool, it's one shape that, or it could be called, why does the wage relationship ruin everything? But as people are mentioning in the chat, like, there is a contradiction between if everything's held in a personal bank account, people get screwed, and also formalizing as a nonprofit has risks. And so what do we do there? And I think just like slowing down, part of what you invite us to do, Dean, is just slow down and be like, okay, with this project, with this goal, like what structure is going to serve that? And there is actually like a lot of people out there doing cool, interesting structure experiments with co-ops and with, like you can have a nonprofit that has actually like decentralized and non-hierarchical board structures and staff structures.
Decentralized, non-hierarchical.
Group with a charismatic leader who's actually dominating everyone. Like there's also not just
No Kings is a progressive event. No Kings is not a far left event. No Kings is not a revolutionary event. No Kings is not a DSA event. No Kings is a progressive event. According to the people we are watching, progressives are capitalists. So what you are watching right now is not the No Kings protest. These people did not organize the No Kings protest. These people are socialists and communists. You are thinking of a completely different group of people. Yeah, that's mainly Democrats and liberals and progressives, not far left socialists.
Say that having unpaid groups suddenly makes everything like equitable and chill vibes. Like in some ways, like the process is the content. Like there's ways when we step into a nonprofit structure that we do become confined by the state. Like there are requirements of that. And actually, like in this moment, it's like not that the structure actually doesn't need to define. Okay, I'm twisting myself as I say this, but I'm like, we can understand incorporation as a tool that we might use in some projects and not others. And we just have to be like smart about it. And I think, like if there's existing nonprofits that can hold money so that your group doesn't have to, like, how do we build trusting relationships there, but also know that it could go away at any time? Like, and I think part of, how can we do, so I think just pausing to ask the question is part of what what structure will serve what we're actually trying to do. And if we do take on a certain structure, what are the risks of it? Either all volunteer has risks or paid staff has risks. And let's just be aware of those and incorporate that into our work going forward.
I think we've got time for one or two more questions. And Autumn, do you want to jump in on that one before we move on?
Don't have me start because I would take all 10 minutes if I start talking about organizations. Let's go to another question.
Well, I'll drop this one here. This is from Rory, asking if you could talk about what happened when folks will switch from effort to effort unsustainably and leave projects behind to struggle without thinking of who that labor transitions to and also consequences for directly impacted people. For example, outreach to unhoused neighbors, direct Global South, etc. And I also just wanted to add a quick note from another message that Rory dropped, just thinking about disability justice within mutual aid spaces and how isolated some folks can feel in being conversations where there's like aggression or avoidance to masking and accessibility, and how you navigate that.
I'll just say that one of the things that really prompted my material on resentment was that I did a masked book tour in the U.S. For maybe like 6 months or something after Love and Effective World came out. And everywhere I went, I worked with the venues and had to, tried to do these things about transparency of all the access needs and stuff. So all these people who don't usually get to go to stuff came. It was amazing. And they were like, this is rad. And they expressed so much resentment about how they can't usually go to stuff. And they all asked, how do you get people to do this? And I was like,
this presentation was a week ago. I want everyone to understand this. This presentation was 1 week ago. And they are still talking about requiring people to mask at their events.
The bad news is by being part of mask blocks, by showing up again and again. Like solidarity is slow. It is like we have to organizing. There's no other way to make anyone do anything. And that the feeling is, how do I make myself want to repeat myself for the rest of my life with love to everyone in my community? Because that's kind of like, and that's true of everybody who's dealt with racism in every group they've been in, and with ableism, and with transphobia, right? So like that, I learned a lot from those exchanges where people were both like so relieved to have something that they could go to where people thought of them, and also so frustrated, rightfully frustrated, rightfully resentful. Nothing wrong with that feeling, but like I didn't want it to eat them up. I wanted it to land them with more connection to other people to do that work with. So I feel like that, and I think that's also kind of in the question before about people who unsustainably jump from effort to effort. The only way to change that is to change the culture, to try to, Autumn was talking about this so well with thinking about culture signal, but culture in general and agreements. How do we create a culture where we value people going deep in projects and staying? Like, how do we, what would we have to, what kinds of conversations would we have? How do we start the meetings? What would we talk to each other about? Like, how do we create a culture where people give feedback? How do we, like all the things we don't like, we have to organize our way out of. That's it. It's just, we have to be like, what makes someone consider that? What makes someone hear it 7 times in a row at 7 different meetings, and then kind of be like, maybe I'll try to give some feedback, or maybe I'll try to like stick with a project for a little longer, or you know what, I want to wear a mask, or I want to like organize a mask. Like, it's just like, it's organizing. It's just like, it's long-term. It's hard.
Right. And I think that like one of the things that the theme of my work right now is discipline, and how discipline is something that like it begins within ourselves, within our own practice. And then I do believe it emanates, it's something that like, as we deepen our discipline of whatever our own practice is, it emanates outward, and it shapes the nature of relationships that we end up in also. And so I think, we do tend to have this sort of obsession with what other people are doing wrong. And I think sometimes we forget that like anyone who's like alive in the US right now is like suffering from like a profound wound of belonging and separation. And so many of the problematic behaviors that we see happening in movement culture, one, are not specific to movement culture. They're just not. It's not like we're special with our special problems. Like, it's the same behaviors in almost any environment that you would find in this system. And they're behaviors that are arising from like maladaptive ways of trying to deal with this like desire to belong and not feeling belonging. And so I think the best thing we can do is to figure out like, well, what is my disciplined practice within myself for how I...
The deal with masking is they believe the pandemic is still a real thing, that COVID is still a real thing, and that masking is part of a community care regime where they are all responsible for caring for one another. And so therefore, because they are responsible for caring for one another, they are responsible for caring for people with autoimmune diseases who can't go out without a mask. And therefore, everyone has to mask at their events because it is part of community care.
Show up to the work that I am called to do, and how do I just keep doing that in a disciplined way?
They're not hiding their identity. It's not what it is.
And then be in relationship with other people
they
who
all
are
know
interested
each
in
other.
Working in that way. It's like, not everyone is for you. Not every movement, ecosystem, environment, organization, community group, not everything is for you, and you're not for everything. Like, you have to find, I think you have to find the right fit. And so I think that's the other, to me, it feels like, in addition to what you're naming about like the importance of continuing to show up and demand things, there's also, I think, this element of like becoming really disciplined within ourselves about like what it is that we are up to. And through that clarity, then finding our way into relationship with people who want to be in that kind of work with us.
I want to say, and also I think we're going to get to end on this plant metaphor question that somebody asked maybe, which I'm happy about. Somebody asked, and Tim, about like, if there was a metaphor, which I'm kind of like, I want everyone to answer this one. Yeah, if there was a metaphor you would recommend for a posture that folks could take in organizing, setting a culture, would it be bamboo or seaweed? So I honestly am like, everybody's metaphor in the chat. I think, Autumn, what you're saying about like discipline, and then at the same time, we're not for every space, not every space is for us. Like, part of what I'm feeling is like, okay, with my block, I need to stretch more. Like, that's like, especially in crisis and collapse times, like, which is in the same, like, like, there's conversations I've had, like being strategic about the places we're going to stretch and why, and having more of an understanding of the importance of geographic proximity for some of the stretching conversations, and like filling up our tanks, our energy tanks, to be able to do that. And I think to do some of the conversations that Dean said about kind of like, okay, like you use this word, here's why I'd prefer we don't, like, actually reserving more, which I think is not the movement culture that I came into. Like, I thought I was going to have more of those conversations with like other anti-Zionist queer Jews, like they're my subculture, which I am going to do some of that. But like, just especially in this moment of ecological destruction and fascism and authoritarianism, how important it is that we build those skills and bring discipline and care and more energy to our nearest communities, because that is where care is going to happen in a lot of times and places. And I think in some ways I'm kind of like, part of the metaphor, part of what I'm thinking about is understanding ourselves as in an ecosystem, and like getting to know the ecosystems of the places that we live, which like here we are so blessed to live in a place of lakes and of rivers and of willow trees and just of like so much beauty. And also like everywhere on Goddess's green earth has so much beauty. And I think like part of the task is or part of the metaphor I think about is like how to zoom out and understand ourselves as just like one small creature in an ecosystem, and decenter ourselves in that ecosystem and see like, okay, how can I see what is around me and actually spend more time and care on the relationship between myself and other creatures in the ecosystem. And like, yeah, so that's part of what I'm sitting with as we're talking about it. I don't know if Autumn and Dean have.
I want to end with what I started the new introduction with. Peter Gelderlos gave me this image that I put in the new introduction, which is we're all next to a giant factory and it's putting out like toxic poison and sludge. And the mutual aid work is us sitting there cleaning off the turtles, cleaning off every rock, trying to skim the scum off the surface of the water. And this stuff is coming out of the factory faster than we can possibly clean. We have to attack the factory.
The factory is capitalism. The factory is the oppressive force of capitalism. The factory that is polluting the river or the pond is capitalism. The mutual aid is the people sitting on the shore trying to clean up the mess that capitalism has made. The only way ultimately to stop the factory from polluting the pond is to attack the factory of capitalism. Everyone get this?
I want to end with what I started the new introduction with. Peter Gelderlos gave me this image that I put in the new introduction, which is we're all next to a giant factory and it's putting out like toxic poison and sludge. And the mutual aid work is us sitting there cleaning off the turtles, cleaning off every rock, trying to skim the scum off the surface of the water. And this stuff is coming out of the factory faster than we can possibly clean. We have to attack the factory. Mutual aid work is one part of the social movement ecosystem. We also have to attack the factory. So if you're doing mutual aid work, but you're not supporting people who are attacking the factory or have gone to prison for attacking the factory or are facing death for attacking the factory, you know what I mean? Like because the mutual aid work is often people's entry point. Sounds good to deliver meals. Fuck yeah, let's give someone a ride. Some people are taking bigger risks. So the part of what I'm really studying is militancy and what it means to be in movements that can attack the factory.
What Dean Spade is talking about when them says attacking the factory, by the way, is overthrowing the capitalist government. When Dean Spade says we have to support the militants, look at the face. When Dean Spade says we have to support the militants who are attacking the factory via mutual aid, them is talking about supporting the revolutionaries who want to violently overthrow the government. That's why people will get put in prison for attacking the factory. Why are you going to prison for attacking the factory? Because the factory in this case means the capitalist US government.
Whether that's giving someone an illegal abortion or other medication, or whether that's sabotaging an Elbit Systems site or whatever, a pipeline, we want to bring those people too, and we want to become those people if we can.
Whoa! Dean Spade, nationally recognized mutual aid activist, just advocated for giving people illegal abortions, attacking systems, and blowing up pipelines. And this, folks, is why you stay until the very end of the presentations. Even though we're a little bit over time, but the stream with Jennifer is going to start a little late because we're finishing this up properly. W to CH in the chat for the gifted channel membership. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's just listen to this again just to make sure we get the full flavor of the calls for illegal and violent and destructive activity from Dean Spade, professor at the Seattle University School of Law. Dean Spade, nationally recognized far-left revolutionary anarchist that has written the literal book on mutual aid. Dean Spade, who has probably raised more money for the far left than anything that they've ever gotten from Soros or the CCP. One more time from the beginning, please, Dean.
I want to end with what I started the new introduction with. Peter Galderlos gave me this image that I put in the new introduction, which is we're all next to a giant factory and it's putting out like toxic poison and sludge. And the mutual aid work is us sitting there cleaning off the turtles, cleaning off every rock, trying to skim the scum off the surface of the water. And the stuff is coming out of the factory faster than we can possibly clean. We have to attack the factory. Mutual aid work is one part of the social movement ecosystem. We also have to attack the factory. So if you're doing mutual aid work, but you're not supporting people who are attacking the factory or have gone to prison for attacking the factory or are facing death for attacking the factory, you know what I mean? Like because the mutual aid work is often people's entry point. It sounds good to deliver meals. Fuck yeah, let's give someone a ride. Some people are taking bigger risks. So the part of what I'm really studying is militancy and what it means to be in movements that can attack the factory, whether that's giving someone an illegal abortion or other medication, or whether that's sabotaging an Elbit Systems site or whatever, a pipeline. We want to be with those people too, and we want to become those people if we can.
And we want to become those people if we can. We want to support these people giving illegal abortions and attacking these systems that we don't like and blowing up pipelines. We want to support these people through mutual aid, and we want to become these people if we can.
Everyone has every role, but like more people need to attack the factories, So yeah, that's the metaphor that gripped me so much when I recommend all of his work. I'll put his name in the chat. That really gripped me. And I think that I want the book Mutual Aid to be not separated from the conversation about the direct attack against our enemies.
Yes. We need care, we need healers, and we need warriors.
Thank you all again for joining us this evening.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Autumn.
Thanks. Well, that clip at the end is pretty fucking epic, isn't it? That clip at the end is pretty fucking epic. Again, this presentation was a week ago. 1 week ago. And no one's watched it but us. Because that's the way we roll on the channel, guys. We watch stuff that no one else watches on the far left. That's why you guys know more about what's going on the far left than literally anyone on the internet or any conservative commentator or any conservative pundit or any of those fucking shills that just ousted the best fucking person in Congress in favor of a shill for Israel. All right. Who's ready to go do a fun stream? You guys want to do a fun stream? We're a little bit late for the stream, but that's okay. Jennifer will forgive us because guys, we are about to start Disenrage. And I think we need a little bit of Disenrage tonight. Disenrage is a fun show that I do on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. We're a little bit late for today, but that's all right because we are going to get started soon. I need to shut down this stream. I need to start up that stream, and then we will get started. And we are watching Bashar tonight talk about alien disclosure. Can you watch it later? Of course you can. It's always available on demand. But we are watching Bashar tonight talking about alien disclosure, and we're not going to think about the nightmare that is the Republican Party. We're not going to think about politics. We are going to decompress and enjoy ourselves. So if you guys want to come watch the stream, I will be putting it up on Rumble, but you guys on YouTube can head right over to the YouTube channel. I'll put the YouTube link in the Rumble chat, but I will have it on Rumble too. I just need to end this stream before I start that stream. So guys, I want to thank everyone who donated 102 channel memberships today. You guys keep me in business. You guys allow me to do what I do. I'm so grateful for all of your contributions. I want to thank everyone who sent in super chats. You guys rock. Thank you for allowing me to do what I do. I'm going to go shut down this stream, start up the new stream, and I will see you guys for Disenrage in but a few minutes. Take care, guys. We'll see you soon.